Chapter 31. Luok's eyes sparkled with excitement as he looked at the pair of flaming gloves marked with the Roman numerali now on his hands. Just moments ago, he had witnessed the gloves materialize out of thin air in Vega's grasp, surrounded by a brilliant, radiant light. It was clear, these gloves were no ordinary item. They were weapons of tremendous power. Moved by the moment, Luok bowed his head deeply. "I swear I will always be loyal to you, Master," he said. "I will stand by your side and eliminate any enemies who threaten the Fanmtl family." Having made his vow, Luok relevantly kissed Vega's hand before rising to his feet. "Good," Vega nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I felt your resolve. Now try them, see how the gloves respond to you. Let me see if they truly suit you." "Yes, Master." Luok bowed, then slipped the flaming gloves on. He took a few steps back to give himself space, preparing to test their power. At first, he didn't feel anything unusual. The gloves fit perfectly, almost too perfectly. They felt so natural on his hands that it was as if he wasn't wearing anything at all. Vega, observing Luok's uncertain movements, frowned slightly. That's odd. When he had first created the gloves, he'd felt their power instantly, an overwhelming aura that surged through him. Why weren't they responding the same way for Luok? Could it be that enhanced equipment could only be wielded by the user who created it? "Don't rush it," Vega said calmly. "Feel it with your heart. Sense the presence of the gloves with your mind, and move as if guided by instinct." Luok nodded and tried again, this time focusing inward. Finally, after repeated attempts, he felt a faint warmth radiating from the gloves. He instinctively followed the sensation, swinging his palm from left to right, and in that moment, a flash of orange-red flame streaked through the air. "Flames?" Luok froze, staring at his own hands in disbelief. Even though he'd known these gloves possessed power, seeing the flame with his own eyes was overwhelming. His heart surged with excitement. "I did it," he murmured. Now that he'd broken through once, everything became easier. Confidence filled him. He calmed his mind, focusing his energy and recalling the moment he had felt the fire. This time, orange-red flames ignited across his hands and danced with the motion of his palms. As he grew more proficient, he directed the flames with ease, sweeping them through the air like a master swordsman wielding fire. But soon, Vega noticed something concerning. Luok's face had gone pale. His breath quickened. Sweat poured down his face. Despite only playing with the flames for a few minutes, Luok was close to collapsing. Vega cleared his throat, snapping him out of the trance. "Ha! Ha!" Luok gasped, drenched in sweat. "I'm sorry, Master. I got a little carried away." Vega patted his shoulder. "It's understandable. Anyone would get excited after gaining power like that. But be careful. Using the flame gloves consumes stamina. If you're not mindful, it could become fatal. You got so absorbed just now, you didn't even notice your strength was draining." Luok nodded, now far more serious. He understood, these gloves burn through physical energy unconsciously. If he wasn't careful, he could exhaust himself to death mid-battle. And in the heat of combat, that would be extremely dangerous. He would remember this lesson well. "I understand, Master. I'll be careful from now on." Vega nodded in approval, then added, "After I leave, focus on mastering the flame gloves. Once I return from dealing with Murphy, I'll help you awaken Nen. With that and the gloves, your strength will grow quickly." He paused, then gave a final instruction. "One more thing," Vega said, locking eyes with Luok. "Pick about 10 people from the action group. Not many, just 10 or so. But the key requirement is absolute loyalty. I need people who will obey me without question. Loyalty is non-negotiable." Luok froze for a second, then quickly realized Vega's intent. These would be the first recipients of the Fanmtl family's special power, hand-picked warriors who would become the family's blades, conquering new ground and eliminating threats. "I understand," he said firmly. "I'll handle it right away." Chapter 32. "Well then, I trust you." Vega gave Luok a final pat on the shoulder, then exited the villa and boarded the waiting car to head for the airport. Before long, Vega arrived at the Sky Arena via airship. It lived up to its name, an internationally famous paradise for martial artists and one of the most iconic tourist attractions in the world. Compared to the small city of Nakuro, this place was on a whole different level of prosperity. From the moment Vega stepped out of the airport, he could see the towering silhouette of the 991-meter-high Sky Arena, visible from every corner of the city. The streets bustled with life, dojos representing countless fighting styles, battle halls, street performers, and fighters dressed in all manner of martial attire. Tourists flooded the area, only adding to the energy. Vega stretched lazily and glanced at the sun above. As he walked, he reviewed the intel in his mind. Murphy, the fourth son of the Hagel family, had many subordinates, including a private Nen army of 7 elite fighters. The strongest of them was named Natoli, Murphy's personal bodyguard. He was recruited from Meteor City and was said to be extremely powerful. A Nen user from the transformation category, though few had ever seen him fight. From the information extracted from Red Snake and Green Lizard, Natoli was believed to be slightly stronger than either of them. As for 2 others in the group, they specialized in defensive Nen and weren't much of a threat offensively. Vega decided he didn't need to worry too much about them. Murphy had come to Sky Arena to recruit a strengthening type fighter who had recently climbed to the 200th floor. This individual had already won 5 consecutive matches and was considered a favorite to reach the 10th win and become a floor master. Currently, Murphy was staying in the presidential suite of the Taro International Hotel. Aside from his 3 Nen bodyguards, he was protected by dozens of regular guards handling various logistics. Vega stroked his chin, thinking, so, if Murphy's really at the hotel, I could just break in and kill him directly. But then he shook his head. No, that would be a waste of a visit. I'm already here at Sky Arena, might as well enjoy the show. Besides, it was better to wait until nightfall. Murphy might be out during the day, and rushing in could alert him, causing him to flee. This wasn't like Nakuro City. Vega didn't have his forces here. If Murphy went into hiding, it would be much harder to track him down. Worse, Vega's appearance could tip him off that something had gone wrong in Nakuro City, that his subordinates had been killed. Murphy might run straight back to his base and vanish. No. The safest bet was to wait until after midnight. With plenty of time to kill, Vega figured he might as well watch some matches inside Sky Arena. So, he bought a ticket and headed to the viewing level for the 200th floor. While waiting for the elevator, Vega suddenly noticed someone familiar approaching. A boy, youthful, beautiful features, silver gray hair, wearing a martial artist's outfit. Vega frowned slightly. Who is that? Why does he look so familiar? Someone who had appeared in Sky Arena. Someone with a striking presence. Then it hit him. Zushi. Also known as Castro in some translations, though his proper name was Zushi Washadu Long. Right. Based on the timeline, in 1997, Zushi had reached the 200th floor of Sky Arena. Unfortunately, his first opponent had been Hisoka, which ended both fortunately and tragically. Though Zushi lost, Hisoka saw potential in him. The Twisted Fruit connoisseur took a liking to Zushi and helped him awaken his Nen. Sadly, with no proper teacher, Zushi had to develop his ability on his own. Though naturally a strengthening type, he leaned on emission and manipulation abilities, which eventually led to his downfall, killed by Hisoka a few years later. Vega studied him silently. If Hisoka took a liking to him, then he must be a promising talent. After all, Hisoka's favorites included Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and even Krollo. Every one of them was a prodigy. If Zushi had been considered a green fruit, then his potential was real. Even without proper guidance, he had grown strong. If someone trained him in strengthening from the beginning, Vega wondered, could he reach the level of Uvogin? Maybe not quite that high, but certainly strong enough to be a serious asset. Interesting. Perhaps he's worth considering. Just as Vega was contemplating whether to recruit Zushi. Zushi tilted his head and asked politely. Excuse me. Do we know each other? Chapter 33. Washidoro noticed that the boy standing beside him, Vega, had been staring at him thoughtfully, as if he knew him. But no matter how hard Washidoro tried to remember, he couldn't recall ever meeting someone like this. Someone so striking in appearance and demeanor, elegant, confident, clearly powerful. If they'd met before, it would have left a lasting impression. He was sure of it. He also noticed the sword Vega was holding. It radiated a rare, extraordinary energy. Just by looking at it, Washidoro could tell it was something far beyond ordinary craftsmanship. The man was probably a martial artist like himself. Could he be another competitor here at the Sky Arena? Unable to hold back any longer, Washidoro finally asked Vega directly. Vega paused for a moment, then smiled slightly. "We haven't met, but I've heard your name before, Washidoro." Hearing this, a proud smile crept onto Washidoro's youthful face. His heart swelled with excitement. As expected of Sky Arena, it's truly the sacred ground for martial artists. If someone at my level is already being recognized, I must be on the right path. If I can become a floor master, I'll be known all over the world. Then, I'll open my own dojo and pass on the tire-bite fist style. Grinning, he extended his hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Washidoro. I've reached the 150th floor, and my dream is to hit the 200th floor this year, become a floor master, and create my own martial arts school." Vega shook his hand with a faint smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm Vega Pengal." He studied Washidoro for a moment, then added, "With your current strength, you might just make it to the 200th floor." "Haha, I think so too." Washidoro laughed, full of confidence. "But..." Vega's smile faded. "I don't recommend trying for the 200th floor this year." Washidoro blinked in confusion. "Huh?" Vega's voice was calm, almost gentle. "With your current strength, if you climb to the 200th floor now, you'll just become prey. You'll get your first taste of true combat. But the price may be more than you can afford." Washidoro frowned. There was disbelief in his eyes. Sure, he knew the 200th floor fighters were strong, but he wasn't weak either. He had been honing tire-bite fist for over 10 years. Even if he couldn't win, he believed he could retreat safely. And besides, wasn't the spirit of martial arts all about challenging the strong in order to grow? Why is he talking like I'm just fodder for others? My technique isn't weak. You don't look convinced, Vega said, seeing the expression on Washidoro's face. He sighed lightly and decided to show Washidoro what kind of world he was stepping into. Vega extended a single finger. In that instant, a surge of immense aura engulfed Washidoro. A crushing pressure of pure nen slammed into him. Fear, dread, death, endless malice washed over his senses like a tidal wave. He stood frozen, completely paralyzed. His heart pounded wildly, screaming danger. That outstretched finger seemed to carry the power to destroy him. This can't be real. What is this power? He thought in horror. He couldn't move a single muscle. Couldn't dodge. Couldn't even blink. His body was telling him, if this touches me, I die. Then, tap. Vega's finger gently tapped Washidoro's forehead. The overwhelming aura vanished. Washidoro collapsed to his knees, drenched in sweat, panting like he had just run a marathon. Vega looked down at him with a faint smile. Without this kind of power, you'd better not climb to the 200th floor. He didn't finish the sentence, but the meaning was obvious. If you do, you'll be slaughtered. How? How could this be? Washidoro whispered, staring at his trembling hands. He had practiced tire-bite fist for more than a decade, and yet, he hadn't even had the chance to raise a fist. He couldn't move at all. No defense. No resistance. After a long silence, he stood up and bowed respectfully to Vega, face full of humility and confusion. Please, sir. What was that power? Washidoro couldn't see Nen. But he could feel it, that moment when death brushed past him. That wasn't just aura. That was something far more real, and far more dangerous. He hoped Vega would explain. After all, he'd shown him this power for a reason. Vega nodded. The 200th floor of the Sky Arena is different from all the floors below. Everyone who climbs that high must have Nen. Whether you've learned it before or not, if you survive your first match on the 200th floor, you'll awaken Nen. Washidoro's pupils shrank. The implications hit him hard. That power was called Nen. And if every fighter on the 200th floor had it, and he didn't, then he wouldn't be fighting, they'd be executing him. He realized something else too, there was no way those fighters would teach him this power mid-battle. If anything, they'd be thrilled to crush a newcomer who didn't know Nen at all. Before Washidoro could speak again, Vega smiled and said casually, "Want to learn it? I'll teach you." Chapter 34. Washidoro didn't answer right away. He narrowed his eyes, cautious. A boy around 16 or 17, suddenly appearing out of nowhere, showing off an extraordinary power, and offering to teach it? It sounded too good to be true. He traveled the world, trained under countless masters, but no one had ever mentioned anything like Nen. Clearly, it was rare, precious knowledge. Why would a stranger offer it so easily? "I want to know why," Washidoro said. "Why me?" Vega answered without hesitation. "Because of your potential. You think learning Nen is easy? You think everyone can do it?" He leaned in slightly. "I saw your aptitude. You've got what it takes to become a top-tier Nen user. And I want you to join me. And besides," Vega added with a smile, "even if I don't teach you, you'll learn it the hard way when you reach the 200th floor. So why shouldn't I warn you now?" That last comment rubbed Washidoro the wrong way. Before learning about Nen, he thought of the 200th floor as just another level, with stronger opponents, sure, but still within reach. But now he knew, without Nen, he'd be cannon fodder. And if someone like Vega had that kind of power, how much stronger were the real veterans of the 200th floor? The very thought made his confidence waver. Seeing Washidoro's conflicted face, Vega shrugged. "Don't worry. If you become my subordinate, I'll personally help you awaken your Nen. I'll teach you how to train, how to use it, and everything you need to know. You'll still have your freedom. I won't keep you on a leash. You'll only be called upon when needed, maybe once or twice a year." Washidoro's heart began to waver. If he'd never heard of Nen, he might have refused. But now, knowing such a power existed, and that the 200th floor fighters all possessed it, he couldn't ignore the opportunity. Vega didn't press him. He simply let him think. Truthfully, Vega had only made the offer on a whim. If Washidoro refused, it wouldn't matter. But finally, I'm willing," Washidoro said quietly, bowing his head. This kind of opportunity won't come again. He could wander the world forever and never learn Nen. Or gamble with his life on the 200th floor, hoping to awaken it in the middle of a deadly fight. But after what Vega had shown him, he didn't want to lose a limb just to gain power. A satisfied smile crossed Vega's lips. What a lucky day. First arrival at Sky Arena, and already I've picked up a new recruit like Washidoro. Since you're willing to be my subordinate, Vega said, do you want to learn Nen the orthodox way, or take a faster path? Orthodox? Fast? Washidoro asked. What's the difference? Same end result, Vega replied. But the orthodox way takes years of training, safe, but slow. The fast method is more intense. I inject Nen into your body directly. It opens your aura nodes instantly. If you can control the aura before it escapes, you'll awaken your Nen immediately. It's riskier, but faster. As long as you've got decent strength and decent aptitude, it'll work. I'll take the second option, Washidoro said without hesitation. All right then. Vega was pleased by the decisive answer. He asked Washidoro to take him to his private room in the dorms. Once there, Vega began explaining the Nen process and the dangers of the direct opening method. Nen is the fusion of life energy and willpower, he said. To awaken it, you need to be able to control your life energy. In a moment, I'll inject Nen into your body. That will open your aura nodes. At that moment, your life energy will begin pouring out. You have to stop it quickly. Control it. Contain it. He then explained the four major principles, Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu. When Washidoro signaled he was ready, Vega stepped forward and struck him lightly with a palm full of aura. Boom. A surge of life energy erupted from Washidoro's body. The awakening had begun. Chapter 35. As night fell, Vega watched with satisfaction as Washidoro maintained 10, wrapping his aura tightly around his body. He looked as if he were cloaked in an invisible, weightless robe. "So this is Nen?" Washidoro murmured in awe, clenching his fists. His face lit up with wonder at the strange, powerful sensation. Vega shook his head. "You've only just learned 10, one of the 4 major principles. Right now, you're still just a beginner." "Alright," Vega continued, "now let's figure out which Nen category you belong to." He briefly explained the 6 Nen types again: enhancement, emission, manipulation, transmutation, conjuration, and specialization. Then he emphasized, "Once you know your category, focus your training there. Training outside your natural type is inefficient. At best, you'll only be able to access around 80% of a technique's potential. And that's for adjacent types. If you end up fighting a skilled opponent, that disadvantage could cost you the match, or your life." Washidoro's expression grew serious. "So if someone chooses the wrong Nen path, they'll never become truly strong?" "Exactly," Vega nodded. "That's why it's essential to know your type. The most common and simple way to find out is the water divination test." He picked up a nearby glass, filled it halfway with water, and floated a leaf on top. "Here. Wrap your hands around the glass and focus your Nen on it." Though Vega already had a good idea of Washidoro's type, he let him go through the process for practice. Washidoro wrapped his hands around the glass. As his aura poured in, the water level began to rise, slowly overflowing from the rim. "This result confirms it, you're an enhancement type," Vega explained. "Enhancers are usually straightforward and excel in direct combat. Their abilities might seem plain, but they can reach incredible levels of raw power and defense. Enhancers also heal faster than most other types, and they can infuse aura into objects to increase their strength or sharpness." "Really?" Washidoro nodded. "This seems like a good match for my Tyrabite fist. I should be able to channel a lot more force with it." But there was no real excitement in his expression. It was clear Washidoro had hoped for something flashier. Seeing this, Vega sighed inwardly. Too many thoughts. Not great for an enhancer. Only those with a single-minded, focused mentality could truly maximize enhancement-type Nen. Vega didn't want Washidoro wandering off into overly complicated abilities and wasting his potential. So he gave him a reminder. "You've heard of Isaac Netero, the chairman of the Hunter Association, right?" Washidoro nodded with wide eyes. Of course he had. Netero was a legend. "Well," Vega continued, "he's the strongest Nen user in the world, and his Nen type is also enhancement. His training method was extremely pure. He threw 10,000 punches a day, pouring his will into every strike. At first it was hard to keep up, but eventually each punch was faster than sound. Even now, when his strength has declined by half, almost no one can take a full-force punch from him." Vega placed a hand on Washidoro's shoulder and said seriously, "The enhancer's path is one of purity and focus. Follow your heart, and stay true to that path." Washidoro nodded thoughtfully, Vega's words clearly resonating with him. With the groundwork laid, Vega moved on. "All right. I'll teach you a few training methods for Nen." He explained some conventional techniques, like the one Biscuit used on Gon, where you use Nen to punch through 1,000 rocks every day. Then he introduced some unorthodox training ideas he'd come up with himself. Training underwater, using Nen to resist pressure from all directions. Standing beneath a waterfall, withstanding the impact while holding position. Having logs drop down from the waterfall, using focused aura to destroy them before they hit his body. These weren't officially recognized methods from the Hunter Association, but Vega didn't think that mattered. Nen was a fusion of willpower and life energy. Its strength depended on the body's strength, and the Chimera at Ark had proven that clearly. As for advanced techniques like In, Shu, and En, Vega briefly explained their purpose, but didn't teach them in detail. Truthfully, he didn't know them himself. Most of his Nen knowledge came from his past life, and while the 4 major principles were frequently explained in detail, The advanced techniques were rarely shown. So he supplemented the gaps with martial arts training ideas he'd seen in fiction, techniques that mirrored what Netero's Heart Sutra style used. Even if something went wrong, it wasn't a big deal. Nen abilities in this world were diverse, some even had self-healing effects. Washidoro wouldn't be in danger. For now, Vega considered Washidoro a test subject, a guinea pig for experimenting with Nen cultivation methods. Chapter 36. After finishing the instructions, Vega checked the time. Night had fully fallen. Time to move. Murphy was still holed up in the presidential suite. Vega's real hunt was just beginning. Leaving the Sky Arena behind, Vega darted through the city streets toward the Taro International Hotel. His pace was swift, he arrived in less than 10 minutes. After adjusting his clothes and composure, he entered the lobby and casually approached the front desk. Using the information Red Snake had once gathered, he inquired about Mr. Murphy. To his surprise, the man was indeed still in the presidential suite. Talk about luck, Vega thought, raising an eyebrow. What are the chances? With a faint smile, he walked toward the special elevator that serviced the presidential suites. There, a neatly dressed elevator attendant, a man in his 30s wearing white gloves, bowed politely. "Excuse me, sir. This elevator is reserved for presidential suites. Please use the other elevators for standard rooms." "I know," Vega said, still smiling. "I'm going up to meet someone." "May I ask which guest you're visiting?" the attendant asked. "I'll need to confirm with them before allowing you up." Vega raised a single finger and pointed it at the man's chest. "I'm looking for a guy named Murphy. And as for the reservation, don't worry. I already bought him a one-way ticket." He leaned in slightly, his smile sharpening. "To hell." The elevator attendant broke into a cold sweat. He immediately realized the boy standing before him was a killer, an assassin targeting a guest in the hotel. But he couldn't move. A crushing pressure pinned him in place, Vega's head locked onto his chest like a dagger. "Don't even twitch," Vega said lightly, "or this finger will punch straight through your heart. Now, let's not keep death waiting for Mr. Murphy. Send me up. If you don't do anything stupid, I won't make this ugly for you." "Why yes. Yes, sir," the attendant stammered. His hands trembled as he pulled out a red elevator keycard. He tapped it on the control panel, and the suite floor lit up. But in his panic, he accidentally brushed a silent alarm embedded in the panel, a tiny, hidden button. Vega watched it all. He sighed. "I told you. No funny business." The man's face went white. Before he could speak, a blast of Nen burst from Vega's fingertip, piercing his chest and ending him instantly. The elevator shuddered to a halt as red alarm lights flared around him. Figures. I should have taken the stairs, Vega thought with a sigh. Murphy's probably already been warned. If I don't move fast, he might slip away. He slowly drew the haunting evil blade. "Wake up. Haunting evil body." At that same moment, a lavish dinner party was underway inside the presidential suite. Chefs bustled in the kitchen, preparing exquisite dishes. The scent of fine cuisine drifted through the air. Only two people were seated at the massive dining table. One was a plump, middle-aged man, Murphy, sipping red wine with a wide grin. Across from him sat a burly man in his 40s, face full of scars and muscle, Sandro. "Mr. Sandro," Murphy said warmly, "you made the right choice. Once I rise to power as one of the 10 Dons, I'll make sure you're rewarded with money, status, women, whatever you desire." Sandro grinned. "As long as you pay up, I'll do the work. Want me to clear out the competition?" "No problem." Murphy laughed. "Pleasure doing business with you." Just then, a man in a black suit rushed in with a phone in hand. He bowed and reported urgently. "Lord Murphy, the hotel security just sounded an alarm. A hostile intruder has broken in, and it seems his target is you. He's approaching this floor now via the elevator." Murphy froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. "Shall we evacuate through the emergency stairwell?" the man asked. "What's the hotel saying?" Murphy countered. "They've dispatched security and shut off the elevator to trap the intruder. But the surveillance team lost sight of him, He may have escaped the elevator somehow. Murphy tapped his fingers thoughtfully on the table. No, we stay here, he said. If I flee, it might be a setup. He could have traps laid outside. He glanced at Sandro and smiled. Besides, with Mr. Sandro here, what could I possibly fear? Sandro gave a prideful smirk. Relax, Mr. Murphy. Let the assassin come, I'll deal with him. Murphy raised his glass again. Then I'll leave it to you. Boom. A thunderous noise echoed from the hallway. Someone had breached the defenses. Sandro wiped his mouth with a napkin and stood. Towering over 2 meters tall, his muscles rippled as he activated his nen. A powerful aura exploded from his body, shaking the room with a pulse of energy. Every guard in the suite turned to look at him, awe on their faces. Murphy felt a swell of pride. I didn't waste my time bringing this guy in. With Sandro on my side, I might really claim a seat among the 10 dons. Sandro cracked his knuckles, grinning. Guess I'll treat this as a warm-up. Tell the chefs to prepare a few extra steaks. At that moment, the door burst open. A figure clad in black armor stepped through. Sandro wasted no time. He lunged forward, channeling all his nen into one massive punch. Bully fist. But Vega was ready. Without a word, he swung the red-backed shrike, his secondary weapon. The next moment, Sandro's punch froze in midair. His aura dissipated instantly. A thin red line traced down his chest. Then, with a wet thud, the upper half of his body slid off, along with his entrails. Chapter 37. Lord Nar. A man in his 40s with rough skin hurried over, holding a document. He respectfully reported, Lord Nar, we've found a clue. Sir, this photo was just printed. He handed over the picture and continued, after checking the surveillance footage and confirming with the front desk, this person entered the hotel shortly before Murphy was assassinated. There's also footage of him entering the elevator and killing the elevator attendant inside. Nar's eyes widened in fury as he turned on the security officer. Roger, what are you waiting for? Go and have this person captured immediately. Lord Nar. Roger looked uneasy. There's more. We found another corpse in the presidential suite. Upon identification, it's Sandro. Sandro? Nar scoffed. Who cares? This is about Murphy, the 4th son of Hegel, one of the 10 dons. Sandro can't compare to Murphy in terms of importance. Roger held his tongue as Nar ranted, unable to refute him. Only once Nar calmed slightly did he cautiously continue. Lord Nar. Sandro was a 200th floor fighter here in the Sky Arena. He had 5 consecutive wins and was considered strong enough to challenge for a floor master position. Nar paused, eyes narrowing thoughtfully as he turned back to Roger. He understood what was being implied. Roger was hinting that the assassin was extremely powerful. Even Sandro had been no match. This might not just be about Murphy anymore, it could be tied to the larger inheritance war among Hegel's sons. After a moment of silence, Nar changed his tone. Then issue a bounty. Offer a high price for the killer's identity, and begin a full investigation, immediately. Roger nodded and quickly left to carry out the orders. Meanwhile, in a lavish villa in Guardiola City, Lord Hegel was soaking in a steaming hot spring, enjoying the luxury. Several beautiful women stood by, massaging his shoulders and arms. Clack, clack. Footsteps echoed nearby. A man in his 50s entered the hot spring chamber, holding a cell phone. Lord Hegel, he said, pausing until Hegel opened his eyes. A call just came in, from the Taro family. It concerns Master Murphy. Oh? Hegel chuckled. I heard he went to the Sky Arena recently. Caused a bit of a scene, did he? That would explain the sudden call. He knew what Murphy was up to, but didn't care much. To survive in the underworld, you had to be the most ruthless, the most daring, and smarter than everyone else. Weaklings didn't become 10 dons. So, he never interfered in the struggles between his sons, unless things went too far. He lazily picked up the phone. This is Hegel. But as the voice on the other end spoke, Hegel's smile vanished. His face turned grim, then enraged. You'd better give me a damn good explanation, he growled. or this won't end here." He hung up and hurled the phone to the floor with a roar of rage. Crack! The phone shattered on impact. Damn it! He stood, furious, and shouted, "Contact the shadow beasts. Send them to the Taro International Hotel in the Sky Arena. There to await my orders. I won't let this go. Someone is going to pay in blood. Find out who killed my son. I want his family, his friends, his pets, anyone connected to him, to vanish from this world. Let them all be buried with Murphy. Yes, Lord Hegel." "Wait." Hegel paused, face still twisted with anger. After a long silence, he said coldly, "What are my other 3 sons up to right now? Have someone find out." The butler hesitated, startled by the sudden shift in focus, but quickly bowed and left the room. Back at the Sky Arena, Vega returned casually, bought a ticket, and began watching the matches. He wasn't worried about killing Murphy at all. The fight had shown him one thing clearly: ordinary non-users were no longer a threat to him. The Ten Dawn's greatest weapons were the shadow beasts, and Vega was now prepared to start testing his strength on a few of them, as warm-up for taking down the Dawns themselves. Chapter 38. The next day at noon, the blazing sun shone down as a sleek airship descended slowly over the Sky Arena. 2 strange-looking men disembarked. One was obese, his bloated figure almost absurd to behold. The other was alarmingly thin, with a sunken face and eyes that hinted at cruelty. These were 2 members of the Shadow Beasts, Leech and Rabid Dog. They had been dispatched the previous night by direct order of Hegel, arriving swiftly at the Sky Arena. Their powers were ideal for capturing targets alive. Rabid Dog was an enhancer. His sharp, toxic fangs could bite through iron and paralyze enemies with a single wound, making him lethal in close combat and perfect for disabling powerful non-users. Leech was a manipulator who controlled countless types of leeches stored in his stomach. These leeches could inflict agony, drain energy, and torture victims with precision. He was a specialist in extracting information, painfully. Hegel had personally chosen these 2 because he didn't just want vengeance, he wanted answers. Who had dared to send an assassin after Murphy? As they exited the airship, a convoy of high-end black cars pulled up. Dozens of people, led by Roger, stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Please, this way," he said, guiding the shadow beasts into the cars. The convoy drove straight to the Taro International Hotel. From the underground garage, they took a private elevator to the top-floor reception lounge. There, Lord Nar sat waiting, his expression stern. Roger leaned in and whispered, "Lord Nar, the shadow beasts have arrived." Nar looked up, forcing a smile. "Welcome, gentlemen. Please, have a seat." "No need," Rabid Dog interrupted. "Just give us the intel. We'll handle the rest. Lord Hegel is waiting for results. We're not here to chat." Roger's face twitched, and he glanced nervously at Nar. Nar's smile faded slightly, irritation flickering in his eyes. Roger stepped in to ease the tension. "We've collected some information about the assassin. But please understand, this man is extremely powerful. Even Sandro, a 5-win 200th floor fighter, was killed instantly. We're currently offering a bounty to hire other assassins as backup. It might be best to wait." "Ha!" Rabid Dog scoffed. "A 200th floor fighter? That's your master? That floor is full of amateurs. 5 wins is nothing. We don't need help. We're shadow beasts. Once we move, that assassin won't escape. We'll show him what true terror looks like. Just give us his intel," he said with a wave, brushing off Roger's warning. The arrogance in his voice was grating. Nar clenched his jaw. Finally, he slammed his hand on the table. Bang! "Roger, give them everything," he barked. "And then take them straight to the target." Roger sighed, then dimmed the lights. A projection screen lit up, displaying an image of Vega. "This is the man who assassinated Mr. Murphy. According to our investigation, he arrived yesterday morning from Nacra City by airship. He spent the day watching matches, disappeared for several hours, and later returned to assassinate Murphy. All evidence suggests he came to the Sky Arena specifically to kill him. His name is Vegapengel." He recently unified Nacra City under the Pengelet family after a brutal war. Murphy had previously partnered with one of the rival factions there. A few days ago, several of Murphy's NEN users left Skyrena for Necro. After that, they vanished. Soon after, Vega arrived. It's clearly personal, Roger added. This was a targeted assassination. Our hotel bears no responsibility. Leech chuckled darkly. That's not our concern. We're only here to capture the man and bring him back to the 10 Dons. Roger rolled his eyes slightly but kept his tone diplomatic. We also found that Vega hasn't left the Skyrena since. He's even bought tickets to watch the fights. He hesitated, then added, it's almost like he wants us to know he's still here. Both Rabid Dog and Leech frowned at that. Everyone knew that even the Skyrena's top brass avoided provoking the 10 Dons. If Vega was hiding inside, there would be limits to what they could do. But Roger quickly continued, however, he hasn't signed up for any matches. He's not trying to compete. I don't think he's hiding at all. It's more like he's waiting for us. Humph. Rabid Dog sneered. So he's cocky. Thinks we won't dare come after him. Or that we can't beat him. He clenched his fists. Where is he now? Still in the arena. Watching matches. Leech licked his lips. Perfect. Let's go say hello. We'll show this little upstart what the shadow beasts are made of. Chapter 39. At this moment, Vega sat calmly on the 200th floor of the Skyrena, watching a match between two unknown NEN users. It was obvious both had only recently learned the basics, or perhaps hadn't even fully grasped NEN yet. Despite some flashy techniques, their aura control was sloppy, and their attacks lacked power. Bored, Vega leaned back in his chair and sipped from his drink. Just as he was about to let his mind wander, he spotted two familiar figures entering the arena. Well, look who it is, shadow beasts. And not just any, it's Rabid Dog and Leech. His eyes lit up as he recognized them immediately. He scanned the area to see if other shadow beasts were nearby, but after looking around for a while, he didn't find any. What he did notice was that many people were now watching him instead. Vega smirked. He had been aware for some time that he was under surveillance, but he didn't care. After all, he was planning to bait his enemies out so he could deal with them all at once. Looks like I haven't made a big enough splash yet, he thought. Only two shadow beasts? That's it? Since more people from the 10 Dons had arrived, there was no point in lingering. Vega stood, picked up his drink, and casually made his way to the elevator. Seeing him leave, the various eyes that had been watching him also began to follow. Rabid Dog and Leech exchanged a glance. He recognized us, Rabid Dog said with a sneer. The moment he saw us, his expression shifted. Then he left. He's running. Leech smirked. That confirms he knows who we are. And he knows we're here for him. He's scared. He's avoiding a direct confrontation. Then he knows our reputation, Rabid Dog grinned. So, is he escaping? Let's follow. Leech narrowed his eyes, watching Vega enter the elevator. If he hides now, it might be a pain to find him later. Rabid Dog nodded. Quick and clean. Let's go. The two followed immediately. Downstairs, Vega exited the Skyrena and walked toward a more secluded part of the city. Don't lose him. Keep following. A muscular man in sportswear whispered into his phone, signaling a few others to stay on Vega's tail. Vega crossed a major road, ducked into two side alleys, and eventually arrived at a construction site. The area was cluttered with debris, sand piles, rusting steel, and overgrown weeds, abandoned and perfect for an ambush. He came to a stop, then turned and called out casually. All right, we're deep enough. You can come out now. Several men emerged from behind cover, weapons drawn. One of them, the leader in a tracksuit, smirked. Didn't expect you to know we were following you. Still walked in here with a grin on your face. Should I call that bravery? Or just stupidity? Either way, you're going to die for it. That 100 million bounty is ours. He pulled out a pistol and fired. Bang. 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 But to their shock, Vega simply caught the bullets between his fingers. The man's smug grin froze on his face as Vega sighed. TCH. So clueless. Vega casually flicked the bullets back at them. PFT. Each man's head burst in a spray of red as the bullets ripped clean through. They collapsed instantly. Clapping the dust from his hands, Vega turned toward the pair that had been silently watching from the side. He smiled. Now that those interruptions are gone, shall we get started? Rabid Dog narrowed his eyes. So he didn't run from us back at the arena. He was luring us. Cocky little brat, Leech growled. Thinks he's clever. Looks like you overplayed your hand, kid. Rabid Dog spat, glaring at Vega. You messed with the wrong people. Leech's expression twisted in disgust. Stupid fool. In unison, the two lunged forward. You should have kept running, they sneered. But Vega was already ready. He reached behind his back and drew his sword. In a low voice, he murmured, "Awaken, haunting evil body." A phantom dragon roared to life behind him, merging into his form. In a flash, black armor materialized over Vega's body. Boom. His aura surged outward like a tidal wave. Rabid Dog and Leech both stiffened midair, caught off guard by the overwhelming pressure. But it was too late to retreat, they could only brace themselves and aim to strike. Clang. Their attacks hit Vega's armor and bounced off with a loud crash. Both were sent flying backward, crashing hard into a wall. Damn it. Rabid Dog growled, clutching his jaw. What is that armor? His teeth had clamped down during the strike, but instead of piercing skin, he'd felt like he was biting a steel wall. Now his mouth ached from the impact. Looking closely, he saw nothing but a faint tooth mark on Vega's armor. His most deadly weapon, his neurotoxic fangs, were completely useless here. Leech stood nearby, scowling. His parasitic leeches required open wounds to enter the body. But that armor had no gaps to exploit. This guy's completely resistant to us. Leech muttered. Rabid Dog nodded. We'll need another plan. This armor is a problem. At that moment, Vega drew his second weapon, the red-backed shrike. With a single step, he launched toward them like a bullet. 10 meters away, his nin exploded outward. He poured his aura into the blade. Instantly, it began to glow red-hot. The red-backed shrike cut through the air. A crimson flash streaked across the battlefield. Chapter 40. The air stilled. In silence, the red-backed shrike gleamed with a searing crimson arc. For a moment, neither of the shadow beasts moved. Then, click. Two soft cracks echoed in the air. Their bodies separated at the chest, split cleanly in two. The upper halves slid down, followed by their lower halves. Blood sprayed across the debris-littered ground. Vega heard the familiar tone of the system in his ear. Hundreds of experience points surged into his counter. 2 more down, he muttered, retracting the haunting evil armor. He glanced down at the corpses for a moment, then pulled out his phone. First, he called Washadoro. Don't leave the Sky Arena for a while, Vega warned. Someone might try to use you to get to me. Until your nen is stronger, it's safest to stay in your suite. Don't risk walking into a trap. Washadoro immediately understood. Vega had likely killed someone important. If enemies couldn't reach Vega, they might target him instead. Though he frowned at the thought, Washadoro had already planned to stay and train at the Sky Arena anyway. I understand. I'll stay put, he replied. But if you need help. Vega laughed. Don't get ahead of yourself. If your nen's too weak when I do call, you'll just be a liability. Washadoro smiled wryly. Got it. I'll be ready. After hanging up, Vega called Kaluok. Have the family stay alert, he ordered. Keep an eye out for any suspicious visitors in Nacra City. The Tendons might retaliate. Kaluok immediately understood the gravity of the situation. If Vega had really killed Murphy, then the entire Pangelit family could be in danger. Feeling the warm energy of the flame glove on his hand, Kaluok said solemnly, Understood, Master. Nacra City is firmly under our control. Nothing will get past us. But Master, you're alone out there. Please be cautious. Maybe it's time to return. With your strength and our home field advantage, we might stand a better chance. Vega chuckled. Don't worry. The Tendon's forces are weak. I can handle them. He gave a few more instructions before ending the call. He had no intention of retreating to Necro City like a frightened turtle. No. The best defense is offense. Vega began to strategize. Killing 2 shadow beasts won't go unnoticed. The 10 Dons will realize I'm no pushover. So, what would they do next? Vega muttered, stroking his chin. Send the other 8 shadow beasts? All at once, hoping to overwhelm me? It was possible. But dangerous for them. If the rest of the shadow beasts died too, it would shake the very foundation of the 10 Dons' dominance. So, maybe, they'd look for outside help. Meteor Street. Vega nodded to himself. The 10 Dons had long-standing ties with Meteor Street. Many of their best subordinates had been purchased or trained there. They could offer payment to the elders of Meteor Street in exchange for elite fighters. And when you talked about Meteor Street, the name that came to mind was the Phantom Troop. Vega frowned. If the 10 Dons really pulled strings and brought the spider into play, things could get complicated. But it wasn't the only risk. He remembered how, in the York New Arc, the Dons had responded to the Phantom Troop by hiring massive numbers of assassins, including the Zoldyck family. If things escalated again, they could put out an enormous bounty and attract killers from all over the world. And if they really got desperate, they might even pay for Maha Zoldyck himself to act, just like they did when they were desperate enough to fight the troop. Vega narrowed his eyes. Even Illumi couldn't eliminate all 10 Dons alone. But Maha, that old monster, he might have been the one who ended it. Vega sighed. The 10 Dons were a frustratingly underdeveloped group in canon. Too little information. Too few chapters. Their full strength was always ambiguous. Hard to analyze. Hard to prepare for. It's time to visit an information broker, Vega muttered. If I want to keep pushing forward, I need intel on the Hegel family. And I need it fast. Chapter 41. Tap, tap. Vega walked into a narrow, run-down alley. The entire alley was filthy, graffiti covering the cracked walls, the stench of urine lingering in the air. Occasionally, a thuggish punk with wild-dyed hair or a heavily scarred man exuding menace would pass by, creating a sharp contrast to the bustling streets outside. Following the directions he'd received, Vega passed through several alleyways, pushed open an old wooden door, turned a few corners, and arrived at a surprisingly large hall. It was mostly empty, save for towering bookshelves lining the walls, filled with neatly arranged books. Opposite the entrance, a middle-aged man lounged on a sofa beneath a dim light, deeply absorbed in reading a thick volume. He was so engrossed in the story, he didn't even notice Vega entering. Vega didn't mind. He strolled over to a nearby shelf and pulled out a random book. Monarissa's Love and Hate. Love and Hate, huh? Pass. Vega slid the book back and pulled out another. 50 Shadows of Grey. Even worse. Seeing a trend, Vega moved on to a different shelf and noticed all the books were authored by someone named Rainy Day Without an Umbrella. Just as he was about to inspect one, a voice behind him spoke up. Oh, that author's really good. Complex plots, gripping writing, definitely worth collecting more of their work. The middle-aged man, having finally torn himself away from his book, looked up at Vega with surprise. Then he chuckled lazily. Hey! When did you get here? Realizing his lapse in hospitality, he sat up and smiled apologetically. Sorry, I got too wrapped up in my reading. Didn't mean to ignore you. Please, have a seat. Vega continued perusing the shelves. No need. I'm fine standing. Gives me a better angle to appreciate these masterpieces. Seeing someone admire his collection, the man beamed like he'd found a kindred spirit. It's rare to meet someone with good taste. I'll give you a little discount on the intel you're buying today, he offered cheerfully. Then I appreciate your generosity, Vega replied with a small smile. In that case, I'd like some detailed information on the Hegel family. At the mention of the name, the middle-aged man's expression changed. He looked hesitant. I'm sorry. There are rules. We don't sell information about the 10 Dons. I'll pay double, Vega said nonchalantly. Just the Hegel family. Nothing more. That's still against our policy, the man said, clearly conflicted. 2 cups, Vega said, turning to face him with a calm, knowing look. The man glanced at Vega's right hand, where ore had subtly begun to gather, and after a moment of thought, he relented. All right. Morisha, bring me the 2 red books. A woman with a sultry figure, golden hair, and an elegant, mature girl walked out of the back room. Dressed in a fitted outfit that screamed royal older sister, she threw 2 thick red books at the man with visible disdain. She gave the books on the table a look of contempt before turning and walking away with a cold snort. Vega watched her go, amused, then looked back at the man with a teasing expression. The man ignored the look and opened the books. All right, let's talk about the Hegel family. He began to speak. The Hegel family originated in the Caribbean Republic and currently controls several states there. Even the president of the republic doesn't dare cross them. Their influence is immense. As the man went on, layer after layer of the Hegel family's secrets were revealed, slowly peeling away the mystery. So the shadow beasts really are the Tendan's strongest combat force. Vega mused, stroking his chin. Then it makes sense that they don't have many other elite fighters. Judging by how easily I defeated those 2, I'm not too worried. He tossed a bank card onto the table. Then, out of nowhere, he asked, by the way, what's my bounty? The man picked up the card and read the attached note with the account number and password. His eyes widened in surprise. 1 billion rings. Then he looked at Vega, confused. Wait, how did you know you had a bounty? Vega chuckled. Your face told me. The second you saw me, you were stunned. Your expression was familiar, like someone who recognized a face from a wanted poster. I just played along to confirm it. And besides, Vega paused, realization dawning. Wait a second. If the Tendans already sent the shadow beasts after me, why would they post a bounty? That'd be redundant. He narrowed his eyes at the man. So who actually put the bounty on me? The man let out a resigned sigh. It wasn't the Tendans. It was the Taro family. After all, you killed someone in their hotel. Vega rubbed his chin. So I paid you for basic intel. But they put a 1 billion ring bounty on me? He snorted. Looks like I need to pay them a visit. A family with that kind of money must be well off. If they're going to stick their noses in my business, it's time someone reminded them to mind their own. He turned back to the man with a grin. All right then, give me everything you've got on the Taro family. Chapter 42. Unlike the top-secret intel on the Tendans, the Taro family's information was easy to access. They were, after all, just a powerful hotel-owning family based in the Sky Arena. After browsing through the details, a new idea struck Vega. The Tendans are too big for most people to mess with, he said. But what about bounties on them? I wonder what kind of price people would pay to see them dead. The middle-aged man gave a bitter smile and shook his head. There aren't any bounties on the Tendans. Why not? They're the overlords of the underworld. No one dares offer a bounty. Even if someone did have a grudge, our intelligence network wouldn't accept it. We're not about to start a war. He added, even the Zoldyck family reportedly won't accept contracts on the Tendans. That doesn't make sense, Vega frowned. If no one would take the job, how did the Zoldicks kill them during the York New Arc? And weren't the Tendans known to work with Meteor City? They bought manpower from there constantly. Why did the Phantom Troop go after them then? Was it about the auction items? Or were the items just an excuse? Was their real goal to wipe out the Tendans? He shook his head. This goes deeper than I thought. Something's not adding up. Still puzzled, Vega left the intelligence center and set his sights on the Hegel family. At the same time, the news of the deaths of Rabid Dog and Leech had reached the Tendans. Inside Hegel's private villa. Crash. Hegel hurled a glass across the room. Shadow beasts. More like shadow trash. Can't even handle one guy. Useless. He slammed his fist on the desk. I knew I shouldn't have let those 2 into the team. Fuming, he grabbed the phone and dialed furiously. You think you're special, Vegapengel? Let's see you take on the rest of the shadow beasts. As the call connected, he barked into the receiver. You've embarrassed us. 2 men, And they still failed. You're dragging the name of the shadow beasts through the mud. Now you've got a chance to make up for it. All of you, go. Tear Vegapengel to shreds. But the voice on the other end was calm and firm. Lord Hegel. We shadow beasts are ready and willing to act, but we can't accept your order right now. What did you say? Hegel's voice dropped an octave, laced with lethal rage. You dare disobey a direct order from a Tendon? The voice replied steadily, the other Dons have issued a directive. All shadow beast activity is suspended until further notice. No one is permitted to engage Vegapengel. Bastards, Hegel roared, fists clenched. He wanted to explode, but stopped himself. If the other 9 are intervening, is this a political move? Are they turning against me? Though united under the title of the 10 Dons, they all had their own power bases and rivalries. Alliances shifted constantly. Just as he was stewing over this, a phone rang. It was his red phone, reserved only for communication between the 10 Dons. Hegel's face darkened. He walked over and picked it up. What do you want? He growled. Why are you interfering in my orders? A heavy voice on the line replied, Hegel. You've lost your composure. We've discussed it. You're too emotionally involved. Until things settle, we've suspended your authority to deploy the shadow beasts. You what? My son is dead, and you're blocking me from retaliating? We understand your grief. But you can't treat our shared resources like your personal army. The shadow beasts belong to all 10 Dons. And 2 of them, Leech and Rabbit Dog, are dead. You owe us compensation. And, the voice added calmly, Campbell and Spencer have jointly called for a 10 Dons council. The remaining 9 of us have all agreed. Fine, Hegel spat. Then we'll settle this at the council. Chapter 43. Hanging up the phone in anger, Hegel stormed toward the basement, his face dark with rage. Although the 10 Dons had agreed to hold a meeting, it would not be in person. All of their discussions were conducted remotely via a secure internet connection. The 10 Dons were spread across 6 continents and 10 regions, and each controlled massive organizations. They rarely had the time, or the inclination, to travel to a common location. More importantly, they feared the risks of gathering in one place. Despite being the undisputed overlords of the underground world, they weren't without enemies. Bringing all 10 together in one spot would be asking for disaster. Any number of forces could take the opportunity to wipe them out in a single strike. Holding the meeting in one of their individual territories would spark paranoia, and using a neutral zone or a V5 nation was completely off the table. Some within the V5 already had their eyes on the 10 Dons, and if they all entered a V5-controlled country together, it would be an open invitation for arrest or assassination. Thus, for decades, all 10 Don meetings had been conducted virtually. None of them had ever met together in person. After navigating through a maze of security measures, Hegel finally arrived at a secure room located 20 meters underground, reinforced with layers of steel and specialized alloys. Beep. He activated the main console. In an instant, 9 video feeds lit up the wall-sized screen in front of him, each showing the face of one of the other 9 Dons. With Hegel's arrival, the meeting officially began. Hegel is here. We can begin, said a deep voice, surprisingly coming from a thin, elderly man who appeared to be in his 70s. Another elder, marked with a tattooed face and a sharp glare, immediately barked, Hegel, because of your personal vendetta, we've lost Rabbit Dog and Leech. What do you propose we do about this? You know very well, the shadow beasts are a shared asset. They're the property of all 10 Dons. You use them for your private business, and now we've suffered losses. Hegel's glare burned with fury. Campbell, Murphy was my 4th son, and heir to the 10 Dons. If the son of one of us is killed and we do nothing, what message does that send? Do we want the underworld to think we're weak old men who can be trampled on without consequence? This isn't just a personal matter. This is about the dignity of all 10 Dons. He slammed his fist down and added, that's why I propose we send every remaining shadow beast to kill Vegapengel and wipe out the entire Pengelet family. Let the world know our wrath cannot be taken lightly. The other 9 Dons exchanged glances but remained silent. Campbell narrowed his eyes, clearly unimpressed. He had no intention of approving such a reckless move. Then Spencer cleared his throat and spoke calmly. "HxH, I don't agree. We've reviewed the intelligence. Murphy initiated this conflict. He tried to annex Nacra City, challenged the Fanmtl family, and failed. It wasn't Vega who picked this fight, it was Murphy. If we allow our sons to stir up trouble and then expect the 10 Dons to clean up their mess, then what are we, really?" He continued coldly, "Therefore, I oppose deploying the remaining shadow beasts. And I suggest you compensate the organization for the loss of 2 elite operatives. If you want to send another strike force after Vega, that's fine, but don't expect us to risk our only top-tier combatants again, especially when Vega already took down 2 of them by himself." Spencer's logic struck a chord. Recruiting skilled, loyal Nen users as shadow beasts was difficult. Most Nen users were arrogant, individualistic, or had dangerous quirks. Getting obedient ones like Rabid Dog and Leech had been a stroke of luck. The other Dons nodded in agreement. After all, Campbell and Spencer were pushing for HxH to pay up, while everyone else got to sit back and collect. They had no reason to side with HxH. Suddenly, the other 8 Dons started echoing the same sentiment, pressuring HxH to accept responsibility. Chapter 44. Seeing the others begin to turn on him, HxH's rage flared. His face turned a deep crimson as he clenched his fists. He wanted to roar at them, but he also understood. He couldn't afford to alienate all 9 of his fellow Dons. Still, the pulsing veins on his temples betrayed his fury. "So what's your solution?" he growled, eyes narrowing at Campbell and Spencer. "What do you all want? You won't let me act in the name of the 10 Dons. And you won't let me use the shadow beasts. So what now? You trying to shut this down altogether? Or are you saying I'm no longer one of you?" The 9 exchanged glances. They had already discussed this before HxH joined the call. No one wanted to completely stop HxH from avenging his son, but none of them wanted to risk more shadow beasts either. This was a calculated pressure play, force HxH to act independently, and squeeze some compensation out of him in the process. Then, the elder with the raspy voice from earlier finally spoke. "We won't stop you from taking revenge, HxH," he said. "But the shadow beasts can't be used again. They belong to all of us. However, if you're willing to cover the costs, we're prepared to act in the name of the 10 Dons. We'll contact Meteor Street, and at the same time, issue a professional-level bounty for Vegapengel. Of course," the man added, "you'll be footing the bill." HxH scowled, but inwardly, he recognized the opportunity. A bounty issued in the name of a single Don would have limited reach. But a bounty issued by all 10 Dons together? That was different. That was a message to the entire underworld. Every criminal organization on the 6 continents would move. After a moment of cold silence, HxH nodded. "Fine. Let them have their way, for now." The rest of the meeting was spent negotiating compensation and rewards. When it ended, the 9 Dons left the screen, satisfied with their gains. HxH remained alone in the steel-walled room, staring furiously at the blacked-out monitors. "Campbell. Spencer," he growled. "If I ever catch you slipping, I'll make sure you regret it." He slammed his fist down on the metal table, then grabbed a phone and made a private call. "Hello. This is the Zoldyck family. What kind of service do you require?" HxH didn't hesitate. "Silver Zoldyck. 2 billion rings. Kill Vegapengel." A brief pause. "Understood. Lord Silva has accepted. Please wait for results." Meanwhile, in Meteor Street. In the inner sanctum of Meteor Street, far removed from the filth and chaos of its outer zones, a council of 9 sat around a massive circular table. These were the elders of Meteor Street, the true rulers of its hidden society. Earlier that day, they'd received a lucrative request from the 10 Dons, eliminate Vegapengel, and destroy the Fanmtl family. They were currently discussing how to carry out the operation. One elder with a hawkish nose tapped the table. "According to the 10 Dons' intelligence, Vega is strong. 2 shadow beasts have already died by his hand. Sending average operatives would be suicide." Another man with a muscular build nodded. "And this isn't just an assassination. They want an entire organization wiped out. 1 or 2 assassins won't cut it. But sending a group of elite mercs could lead to infighting. The chief elder, a bald man in a black robe seated at the head of the table, finally spoke. Then the answer is clear. We need a cohesive, battle-ready team. He looked around. Any recommendations? Whoever suggests the team we pick gets half the fee. Several names were offered. All were rejected, too weak, too few, too disloyal. Finally, one elder spoke up. What about Kurlo's Phantom Troop? They're notorious. There are around 10 of them. They're ruthless, loyal to each other, and already A-class criminals. Wiping out a family like the Pengelots? That's right up their alley. The elders fell into brief silence, then nodded one by one. It made sense. The Phantom Troop was ideal for this type of bloody work. And they had no fear of authority. Very well, the chief elder declared. We'll send the job to the Phantom Troop. Elder Bilo, you're responsible for contacting them. As long as their price isn't outrageous. Approve it. Chapter 45. Elder Biro returned to his residence, picked up the phone, and dialed the number marked Kurlo. At that moment, Kurlo was in an abandoned warehouse, reading through a collection of rare and ancient books. These tomes weren't just valuable, they were unique artifacts, nearly impossible to find elsewhere. Recently, Kurlo had developed an interest in these books. Not long ago, he and 2 other Phantom Troop members had broken into a museum and looted its entire collection. He was now deeply absorbed in one of the ancient texts they'd stolen. Beep beep beep. The ringtone echoed, causing Franklin and Pakunoda, who had been resting against the wall, to glance up. Kurlo saw the caller ID and immediately knew it was from one of Meteor City's elders. Normally, they only reached out to the Phantom Troop when they needed something done. Kurlo didn't answer right away. He calmly finished the chapter he was reading before picking up. Hello, Elder Biro, Kurlo said coolly into the phone. Elder Biro replied flatly, the Council of Elders has a commission I'd like the Phantom Troop to handle. Are you interested? Kurlo's voice didn't change. Please, go ahead. Kurlo had no issue accepting tasks from Meteor City's elders. After all, the troop benefited from their intelligence network, and the troop still wasn't at full capacity. They needed to recruit more members, ideally from Meteor City. Cooperation with the elders was necessary. As long as the conditions were right, Kurlo didn't mind working for them. Biro quickly explained the mission, a job from the 10 Dawns, to assassinate Vega Pengal and destroy the Pengal family in Nitro City. Kurlo's expression didn't shift. Killing was second nature to him. The number of targets was irrelevant. We'll accept the mission. But I'll need detailed intel on Vega Pengal and what assets the troop will be provided. After a brief pause, Kurlo received confirmation and agreed to take the job. Once the call ended, Pakunoda looked over at Kurlo and asked, Big mission? Should we gather everyone? She didn't ask what the job was or how dangerous it might be. In her mind, as long as she followed Kurlo's lead, the troop would move forward. Kurlo shook his head. We'll wait until I get the full intel. No need to summon everyone just yet. Soon after, all the information on Vega Pengal was sent to Kurlo's phone. He studied it closely, folding his arms across his chest. His expression lit up with interest. Interesting. This Vega, based on the intel, it doesn't seem like he's had Nen for long, but his power level is abnormally high. The speed of his growth is suspicious. Either he's made a harsh Nen vow or he's using some other method. But if it were a restrictive vow, he wouldn't be so reckless. So it must be something else. Kurlo stared at the report and analyzed carefully. According to the intel, on the night of the upheaval in Nitro City, Vega had appeared with a large number of strange warriors. Upon death, these warriors turned into black fragments and vanished, evidence that they were conjured entities or possibly Nen beasts. Later, Vega was seen wielding a sword that transformed into armor. After donning it, his power skyrocketed. Kurlo nodded slightly in realization. So Vega's Nen ability likely involved conjuring those shadowy figures, and the sword-turned armor was probably a special Nen tool he had acquired. But he dismissed the idea shortly after. Something didn't add up. After awakening Nen, it takes a long time to train and build strength. The number of shadow soldiers that night was far beyond what a beginner could handle. Could it be that Vega had already awakened Nen? But his earlier records painted him as a complete novice. That didn't fit. Then maybe the summoned shadows were linked to the Nen tool as well? Kurlo recalled passages from the ancient books he'd been reading. Some described rare tools that grew stronger after their previous user died, remaining imbued with powerful residual aura. So perhaps the sword had once belonged to a powerful Nen user, and Vega just happened to find it. That would explain his sudden surge in strength. Kurlo's eyes gleamed with interest. He was intrigued by the tool itself, but also saw potential. If they could acquire such a weapon, the Phantom Troop's power would rise dramatically. Having finished reading the report, Kurlo began making calls. Knowing that Maki was still doing freelance healing work at the Sky Arena, he contacted her first. Through her, he learned that Phaeton had been working on puppet experiments at the arena, and that Uvogin, bored as ever, had also gone there to look for fights. After taking all this in, Kurlo gave the three of them a mission: locate Vegapengel at the Sky Arena and eliminate him. He assigned all three because Vega's strength seemed formidable. After all, he'd killed two of the Shadow Beasts solo. The Shadow Beasts had earned their fearsome reputation in the criminal underworld. They weren't weaklings. So sending 3 troop members should be more than enough. As for the Pengel family back in Necro City, Kurlo didn't even spare them a thought. If they didn't even have Nen, how could they possibly resist the Phantom Troop? After finishing the arrangements, Kurlo took Franklin and Pakunoda and headed to Necro City, intent on wiping out both Vegapengel and his entire family. Chapter 46. Inside a luxurious suite over 200 floors up in the Sky Arena, Uvogin lounged on the couch, drinking beer while Maki finished her phone call. When she hung up, Uvogin asked curiously, "Another client asking you to Solemn's back on?" Maki slid her phone into her pocket and shook her head. "Nope. That was the boss. He just gave us a mission." Crack, Uvogin crushed his beer can with excitement. "The boss? You mean a serious mission? One that brings the whole troop together?" "Ha ha ha," Uvogin laughed as he tossed the can aside. "Awesome. That last job was so much fun. Some of those Cave Luda guys had serious power. It was such a rush to fight them. Especially when their eyes turned red after watching their comrades die. The Nen they released in rage. Now that was satisfying. Even now, I still remember that fight clearly. I wish we had more opponents like them. These arena fighters just don't cut it. Most of them don't even know what Nen is. It's boring beating them up." After his rant, Uvogin looked eagerly at Maki. "So who's the target this time? Anyone strong enough to be worth the trouble?" Maki glanced at him. "We've been hired by the Council of Elders in Meteor City. They want us to wipe out the Pengel family. Their boss, Vegapengel, is currently near the Sky Arena, so the boss wants us to take care of him while he's close." Vegapengel. Uvogin scratched his head. "That name sounds familiar. I think I've heard it recently." "You probably have," Maki said. "He's been making waves in the arena lately. He's already wanted." "Oh, and remember Sandro? The guy who challenged you to a fight after 9 consecutive wins?" "Yeah, what about him?" "He was killed by Vega." Clap. Uvogin slammed his palms together in recognition. "Right. That guy who wanted to challenge me to a match." Maki searched her phone, then pulled up a bounty notice. "Also, Vegapengel's got a secret bounty on his head, 1 billion jenny. He reportedly killed 2 of the Shadow Beasts on his own. So yeah, he's definitely strong." Uvogin laughed maniacally. "What are we waiting for? Let's find this Vega guy so I can crush him myself." Maki gave him a stern look. "Hold up. The boss said the 3 of us need to go together, you, me, and Phaeton. Apparently, Vega has a powerful Nen tool. The boss wants us to be careful." Uvogin raised a fist triumphantly. "Don't worry. Leave it to me. I'll take him one-on-one. You and Phaeton can just watch." At the mention of Phaeton, Maki frowned. She didn't trust him. Though Phaeton was also from Meteor City, She suspected his reasons for joining the troupe weren't pure. He always seemed to be snooping around for intel on the other members. His behavior made her uneasy. She especially disliked his nen abilities, Soul Puppet, Soul Summoning, and Puppet Catcher. Soul Puppet allowed him to create dolls using remnants of others' nen. Soul Summoning targeted the eyes of victims, granting their abilities to the puppets. Puppet Catcher fused multiple puppets together for combined nen use. Because of these techniques, Phaeton needed a steady supply of eyes and other puppet materials, hence why he lingered on the 200th floor of the arena, constantly scouting for targets. Maki turned to Uvogin seriously. Be careful around Phaeton. I've got a bad feeling about him. Phaeton? Uvogin frowned. Though he preferred brute force, he wasn't stupid. He'd grown up with Maki and knew to trust her instincts. So he nodded and raised his guard, slightly. Still, he wasn't too worried. If anyone in the troupe betrayed the rules, the entire group would come for them. As long as Phaeton wasn't crazy, he wouldn't try anything. Alright then. Let's go tell Phaeton. The boss already sent Vega's current location. Sweet. Let's move. Uvogin sprang to his feet, fired up for the fight. Maki nodded and left the suite, heading to Phaeton's room. Phaeton wasn't on the same floor as Uvogin, since Uvogin was a floor master, but Phaeton preferred to stay blended in on the 200th floor while scouting for puppet candidates. When Maki and Uvogin arrived, they pushed open the door and found Phaeton watching the ongoing matches. Need something, Maki? Phaeton asked with a smile, a disturbing gleam in his eyes. Maki scowled. If not for the troupe's rule against internal conflict, she'd have found a way to take him out already. Keep looking at me like that and I'll destroy your toys, she snapped. Phaeton chuckled darkly. So tense. What brings you two here? Maki didn't waste time. She explained the mission from Krollo. When Phaeton heard the name Vegapengel, his interest peaked. He'd already heard the rumors. This guy was strong. Possibly strong enough to make a high-level puppet. And maybe even provide the perfect pair of eyes. Phaeton agreed without hesitation. After confirming everyone was on board, Maki gave them the coordinates Krollo had sent. The three of them left the Sky Arena immediately, heading toward their new target, Vegapengel. Chapter 47. Inside a worn-down building, Vega sat atop a pile of unconscious enemies, a satisfied glint in his eyes. Not long ago, after obtaining intel on the Ichiro family, he had decided not to let things slide. He made his move. After all, he'd only entered one of their hotels to eliminate a target, but the Ichiro family had responded more aggressively than even the 10 Dons. They slapped a 1 billion Jenny bounty on him. Vega was pissed. He hadn't even provoked the Ichiro family directly, and yet they dared to issue a bounty? Using the intel he gathered, Vega launched a counterattack against the Ichiro family, hard. Over the past 2 days, Vega had raided all of the Ichiro family's casinos in the city, leaving them with massive financial losses. What the Ichiro family did with that information now was none of Vega's concern. They brought this on themselves. If they didn't learn their lesson and revoke the bounty, he'd just have to pay them a visit in person. Just as Vega was enjoying his spoils, 3 figures quietly approached the decaying building. Maki glanced at her phone, then nodded to Uvogin and Phaeton. According to the Ichiro family's intel, Vega is hiding here, she said. Looks like he's pretty pissed about the bounty. He's been targeting their casinos one after another. The family's taken some serious damage, and they pulled all their resources together to finally track him to this location. Uvogin chuckled. I like the way this guy operates, he's got guts. If the boss hadn't ordered us to take him out, and he wasn't an outsider, I might have suggested recruiting him into the troupe. Phaeton eyed the cluster of decaying buildings and frowned. The problem is, how do we find him in all this rubble? There's at least 20 or 30 buildings here, it'll take too long to search each one. And we'll probably tip him off before we even get close. Could be walking right into an ambush. Maki nodded, also concerned. This place is massive. It's going to be tough to find him without alerting him. But Uvogin just laughed. You're all overthinking it. Watch me. He strode forward confidently. Wait, don't do anything reckless. Maki warned. Phaeton immediately activated N, stretching his aura to listen for movement. Uvogin grinned. Relax, Maki. That guy knows we're coming. Even if he tries to run, your N will spot him, right? I doubt someone with his style would run. Just trust me on this. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs. The air around him trembled. Then, Vegapengel, get out here. Come on, come on, come on. His voice echoed across the entire complex. Back inside, Vega, still lounging, heard the booming shout. He looked up, surprised. That was fast. They found me already? Those bounty hunters must be more competent than I thought. He smirked. Well then, let's see who's calling. Kicking aside the unconscious enemies in his way, Vega grabbed his demonic sword and darted out of the building. A short distance away, he spotted 3 figures waiting in the clearing. The moment he saw them, Vega's heart skipped a beat. It was the Phantom Troop. The Phantom Troop? He instinctively gripped the hilt of his sword tighter and scanned the area, searching for Krillin, Phaeton, and the others. His instincts screamed at him to prepare for a retreat. He wasn't stupid. Confident though he was in his Nen weapon, he had no intention of taking on the entire troop. Every member was an elite among hunters. But after scanning the area, he relaxed slightly. Only 3 of them had come. That, Vega figured, he could handle. He recognized them immediately. Uvogin, enhancement type, known for his super destruction fist. Maki, transmutation type, with her deadly Nen threads. And the pale, gray-haired, goth-like one, Phaeton's replacement, the new puppet master known only as Face. A specialist. Dangerous. Still, Vega felt confident. His Nen ability countered theirs quite well. With his armor active, he could probably withstand Uvogin's punches. He'd just have to avoid Maki's threads. As for Face, unless his puppets were unusually strong, he wouldn't pose much threat. From what Vega remembered, Face's puppets were mediocre. Feeling reassured, Vega stepped out of the shadows. Uvogin grinned. See? Told you he'd show. Vega walked to within 10 meters of the trio and stopped. If I'm not mistaken, he said, I've had no prior dealings with the Phantom Troop. And with the Itro family's resources, they shouldn't be able to move you guys. So this isn't about a bounty, is it? His eyes narrowed as his fingers lightly tapped the hilt of his sword. Are you really planning to fight me? Maki's gaze lingered on Vega's sword. It matched the description Krillin had given. Was this the Nen artifact they were meant to retrieve? It certainly looked special. Vega noticed her staring and instantly understood. So, it's the sword, huh? That's what you're after. He let out a low breath. Figures. Only someone like Krillin would send 3 people over just to get something interesting. Oi. Enough chit-chat, Uvogin bellowed, his aura exploding outward. Let's fight. He stomped the ground and launched a barrage of rubble straight at Vega. Vega's eyes narrowed. No point avoiding it now. He pulled his sword. Awaken, Demon's Haunt. A ghostly dragon burst from his back and dove into his body, manifesting black armor across his form. A wave of dense, ominous aura radiated outward. The rubble Uvogin had launched came flying toward him, but Vega casually swept his hand, shattering the stones midair. Uvogin laughed, wild-eyed. Yes. That's the kind of strength I'm talking about. Let's have some fun. Chapter 48. Let's do this. Uvogin roared and slammed one foot into the ground, launching himself straight at Vega. As an enhancer, close-range combat was his forte. Vega responded instantly. A glowing red-backed halberd appeared in his hand, and he swung it toward the charging Uvogin. Sensing a deadly threat, Uvogin abruptly changed direction midair, landing on the 2nd floor of a nearby building to dodge the blow. Vega followed closely, his halberd slicing through the air with deadly precision. Every swing left a trail of red light. Uvogin leapt again, dodging the strike as the blade crashed into the building, sending the balcony crumbling and dust flying everywhere. Uvogin frowned. That weapon was seriously dangerous. Even with his iron-hard body, he wasn't sure he could take a hit from it. Watching the duel, Maki turned to Face. What are you waiting for? Help him. Let's go together. She conjured her nen threads, cloaked them in, and flung them toward Vega's back. Face, meanwhile, watched the fight with wide, gleaming eyes. This is perfect? The ideal material, he murmured. He knew Yuvogyan's strength better than anyone, he was arguably the troop's toughest fighter. If Vega could suppress him, then Vega would make a perfect puppet. If he could turn Vega into a puppet, and later take down a few other members with surprise tactics, he might just realize his dream, turning the entire troop into his masterpieces. Excited, he waved his hands. Several puppets appeared around him, tall, short, fat, and lean. They began their assault immediately. 2 large enhancer-type puppets charged Vega head-on with massive fists. Another stood at range, firing nen bullets. The rest supported with secondary abilities. Yuvogyan seized the chance and leapt back, escaping Vega's pursuit. Vega's eyes narrowed at the incoming puppets. With a single swing of his halberd, he sliced the 2 closest puppets in half. The nen bullets that struck his armor dissipated without leaving a scratch. Face clicked his tongue. Puppet catcher. His ranged puppet fused into his body, and he extended both arms, launching a barrage of nen bullets directly at Vega. But Vega only sneered. The bullets struck his armor and bounced off harmlessly. Face's eyes twitched in disbelief. Why? Why isn't he reacting? That many hits. He didn't even flinch. Vega calmly walked toward them, halberd in hand, shrugging off every attack. Face's expression twisted in frustration. Damn it. Damn it. Why won't he fall? Suddenly, Vega felt resistance in the air. Using Gyo, he noticed a tight net of invisible threads weaving around him, Maki's nen. The threads scraped along his armor, trying to tear it apart. Vega pressed a hand to the trap. He could feel the tension, it was strong, but not enough. Hey! You think this'll stop me? With a single slash, Vega's halberd cut through the threads, shattering the net entirely. Just then, Yuvogyan came charging back, aura flaring around his right arm. Super Destruction Fist. Vega swung his halberd down to block. Slash. Blood sprayed, the halberd sliced clean through Yuvogyan's arm. But to Vega's shock, Yuvogyan didn't back off. Eyes blazing, he howled, Super Destruction Fist. His severed arm slammed into Vega's chest with overwhelming force. Boom. It was like a tank hitting a wall. Vega was blasted backward, crashing through debris. Boom. 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 Dust and rubble exploded into the sky. Yuvogyan stood his ground, panting, face pale. He'd poured everything into that punch. Even with the armor, Vega had to be seriously hurt. Chapter 49. Yuvogyan was breathing heavily. His fighting spirit still burned, but exhaustion crept into his eyes. That final blow had drained almost all of his aura. Even with his superhuman physique, his body now felt weak and sluggish. Maki immediately retrieved his severed arm and reattached it with her nen threads. In just over 10 seconds, the arm was fully connected. Wojin, move your arm. See if anything feels off, Maki said quickly, inspecting her work. She knew many nen weapons could carry strange and lasting effects, and Vega's spear might have properties that could cause permanent damage. Yuvogyan flexed his reattached arm, then grinned. Still as good as ever, Maki. Feels perfect? With Yuvogyan stable, Maki turned to the ruins where Vega had been blown away. Her expression was serious. She focused her aura into her eyes and scanned the rubble with Gyo. That punch from Yuvogyan had been monstrous, but Vega's armor was extremely durable, possibly reinforced by nen. Even with such a powerful hit, there was no guarantee it had killed him. Sure enough, she soon spotted Vega lying among the debris. His aura was still flowing, he was alive. Face noticed it too and raised both hands, firing a rapid barrage of nen bullets into the ruins. Vega was still dazed from the impact. Yuvogyan's super destruction fist had slammed directly into his helmet. The armor had absorbed most of it, but the remaining force and shockwave were enough to leave him reeling, his vision spinning. After a moment, he slowly sat up, shaking off the dizziness. He felt something fall from his head, fragments of his helmet clattered to the ground, revealing his face. Rising to his feet, red-backed halberd in hand, Vega stepped out of the dust-filled crater. He looked at the 3 troop members and smiled. As expected of the Phantom Troop, you actually managed to break through the armor of Demon's Haunt. I've fought a lot of Nen users over time, and none of them have even left a scratch on this armor. You're the first. Impressive. But Maki, Uvogin, and Face weren't feeling honored. In fact, their expressions grew more tense. Even after all that, after coordinating their abilities and Uvogin unleashing his ultimate attack, all they'd done was crack Vega's helmet. And judging by his calm demeanor, it hadn't even truly hurt him. Now, their strongest fighter was drained, Maki's threads couldn't cut through the armor, and Face's puppets had been completely ineffective. Even with Vega's face exposed, the core of his body remained armored, and unscathed. They exchanged glances. None of them believed they could win this fight. Without a word, Face separated from his fused puppet, and 4 more puppets charged at Vega to create a distraction. Vega casually waved his halberd, SHNK, SHNK, and destroyed them all. At the same time, Uvogin punched the ground, stirring up a thick cloud of dust to cover their retreat. Vega immediately swung his halberd to clear the air, but by then, all 3 had already fled, leaving only their backs in the distance. Vega gave chase. Sure, the Phantom Troop were popular villains back in his past life, but now they were enemies. He had no reason to let them go. Especially not if it meant they'd regroup and return stronger later. However, after just a short pursuit, he came to an abrupt halt. The path ahead was crisscrossed with Nen threads, dense as a spider's web, blocking his advance. Even with the Redback Shrike's cutting power, clearing a path would take precious time, just enough for them to get away. Vega watched their silhouettes shrink into the distance, eyes narrowing. Rage flickered in his gaze. He raised the Redback Shrike, gripping it between his thumb and middle finger. With a twist and a flick, he hurled it like a javelin. Boom. The weapon tore through the air with a deafening sonic boom, moving faster than sound itself. A second later. Thunk. One of the 3 suddenly froze, impaled cleanly through the chest, nailed to the ground by the halberd. The other 2 turned back momentarily, eyes wide with shock. Then they ran faster, disappearing completely into the distance. Chapter 50. TCH. Let 2 escape. Vega cut down the remaining Nen threads and walked over to the corpse impaled on the ground. So it was you, he said with a scoff. Face, the gray-haired, slim puppeteer, lay motionless, pierced straight through. Vega's tone held no pity. Out of the 3, you were the least valuable. In the future, Vega knew this guy would fake his death and collaborate with Hisoka. Killing him now wouldn't impact the Phantom Troop's main structure. It would have been far more meaningful to kill Maki or Uvogin. Still, he'd earned nearly 1,000 experience points from the kill. Not bad. Vega yanked the Redback Shrike free and released his armor, the evil spirit fading from his body. He sighed quietly. His strength still wasn't enough. If it had been, all 3 would have died here, not just one. The Phantom Troop's sudden involvement had taken him by surprise. Judging by Maki's look earlier, Vega couldn't tell whether they were after the armor, or just completing someone else's mission. Meteor City was deeply entangled in the underworld. The 10 Dons had ties to the Council of Elders, and the Phantom Troop answered to that council at times. It made Vega suspicious about the real reason behind the attack. He now had a serious concern for the Penguin family back in Necro City. Worse, he'd just killed a Phantom Troop member. He remembered how the troop had scoured York New City to avenge Uvogin's death at Kurapika's hands. Now that Face was dead, the troop might do the same for him. They could mobilize all their members and come for Vega, or even go straight to Necro City to wipe out the Penguin family. Only Kurokio had awakened the Fire Glove's special ability, and that wasn't nearly enough to stop Krilo and the rest. I need to head back to Necro City, Vega muttered. Before the troop turns my home into a graveyard. He didn't wait any longer. Gathering up the loot he'd stolen from the Ichiro family, he took off toward Necro City. Meanwhile, Maki and Uvogin had escaped far from the ruins. Only when they were completely out of danger did they stop. We're clear, Uvogin. No one's following us. Damn it. Uvogin punched the stone wall beside him, creating a massive crater. Face is dead. We just watched him get taken out, and then ran like cowards. He wasn't especially close to Face, but a troop member was a troop member. Their bond was forged through blood and battle. Save it, Maki said bluntly. We'll avenge him later. First, we report to the boss. Comfort wasn't something they were raised to give. In Meteor City, if a comrade died, your only duty was to get stronger and take revenge when you could. That was what being a spider meant. Maki pulled out her phone and dialed Kurlo. Beep. Beep. Have you dealt with the target? Kurlo's voice came through, calm as always. He sounded slightly confused. Maki only called when a mission was complete. No, boss. We engaged the target, but he was too strong. We couldn't beat him. Face is dead. Kurlo didn't respond at first. His face didn't change, but his tone grew subtly more serious. Explain everything to me. Maki recounted the entire fight in detail, how Vega moved, his abilities, his incredible armor, Demon's Haunt. When she finished, Kurlo was silent for a few seconds, then gave a new order. Leave Sky Arena. Come meet us immediately. Understood. He gave her the location, then hung up. Kurlo sat back, deep in thought. Should he cancel this mission? Vega's strength was far beyond expectations. One man had fought off 3 troop members, and 2 of them were frontline combatants. If Vega hadn't been distracted by that final attack, all 3 might have died. Sure, Wojin's super destruction fist had cracked the helmet, suggesting that Vega's armor wasn't completely invincible. That was a potential weak spot. But continuing this mission would mean assembling the entire troop. They would have to fight Vega head-on, and if they failed again, the consequences could be catastrophic. If Vega got away again, he'd become a massive threat to any troop member traveling in pairs. Someone with his power, capable of killing 3 alone, was too dangerous. Kurlo didn't decide immediately. Instead, he sent a message to every member of the Phantom Troop. It was just 4 words. Assemble. All of you. Chapter 51. After the intense battle with the Phantom Troop at the Rotten Building, Vega switched locations. Using a fake ID, he purchased an airship ticket, not to Nacro City directly, but to the nearby city of Poo. Poo City was only about 500 kilometers from Nacro, not too far, and much safer. Why didn't he just fly straight to Nacro? Easy. He was now blacklisted by the 10 Dons, had drawn the Phantom Troop's attention, and had a bounty on his head from the Ichiro family. Flying directly into Nacro would be like handing himself over on a silver platter. There was no doubt the airships to Nacro were under tight surveillance. If he boarded one now, his enemies would know immediately. And if some lunatic decided to plant a bomb and detonate it midair? Even with Demon's Haunt active, Vega couldn't guarantee survival from something like that. So instead, he chose to land one city over and return by car. A much safer bet. After 2 days of cautious travel and using disguises, Vega arrived in Poo City. He rented a used car from a dealership and hit the road toward Nacro City, whistling as he drove, in high spirits. He'd already checked in with Kurok, and for now, Nacro was still quiet. No signs of Phantom Troop members, though some unknown individuals had been spotted secretly observing the Pengel family. To avoid alerting them, Kurok hadn't acted, but had his people tail them and ordered the family to prepare for battle. If anything changed, they'd be ready to strike. Vega was satisfied. All the family had to do was keep Nacro stable until he got back. As he neared Nacro, cruising along a vital stretch of highway. Boom. A massive blast struck the vehicle out of nowhere. The car was obliterated, shattered into debris, and a crater 2 or 3 meters deep was left in the road. Vega, though injured, managed to tumble free from the explosion's radius. His clothes were torn, and scorched marks covered his body. He gasped for air, cold sweat on his brow. That had been close. He hadn't sensed the attack at all. If not for his heart suddenly pounding, his instincts screaming danger, he might have died then and there. But there was no time to rest. Vega's eyes narrowed. No way the enemy would miss a follow-up. It wasn't over. In a flash, he drew the red back strike and activated Demon's Haunt. The ghostly dragon roared and merged with him, encasing his body in its signature black armor. Just in time. Bam! A devastating punch smashed into his abdomen. He was sent flying, crashing through trees for dozens of meters before skidding to a stop. KH. Ah! Vega coughed and slowly got up, pain radiating through his body. A large dent, complete with spiderweb cracks, had formed in the armor where he'd been struck. His eyes sharpened. This was the first time someone other than Uvogin had cracked Demon's Haunt. And unlike Uvogin's super destruction fist, this punch hadn't been enhanced by full power aura. It was a regular attack, yet it had caused visible damage. Even more alarming, Vega hadn't sensed his attacker's approach at all. Whoever this was had mastered into a terrifying degree. He wasn't just strong, he was elite. Vega gripped his spear tightly and scanned his surroundings. Then, a tall figure stepped calmly into view. Slender but muscular. Long silver hair. Sharp facial features. Blue martial arts uniform. A quiet but commanding presence. Xeno Zoldyck. No, Silver Zoldyck. Vega's heart tightened as he stared at him. He drew in a slow breath and readied his spear. If Silva had shown up, this wouldn't be a simple fight. He was relieved to see only Silva. If that old man in the cloak appeared, he might have suffered the same fate as Krollo during his first encounter with the Zoldycks. In Vega's mind, intel surfaced about Silver Zoldyck. Silver Zoldyck, father of Killua. Transmutation type. Took down Phantom Troops number 8 head-on. Krollo once warned the troop not to provoke the Zoldycks again. Silva and Xeno fought Krollo and had him cornered. If not for Illumi and Maha taking out the 10 Dons, Krollo might have died right there. Later, Silva killed Chimera Ant's squadron leader Cheetu with one hit. Cheetu didn't even see it coming. Everything Vega knew screamed one truth: Silva Zoldyck was no joke. And now, Vega would have to survive a real test. Chapter 52. Suddenly, the space in front of Vega distorted. Dozens of afterimages flickered around him, each moving like silent ghosts. It was impossible to tell which figure was real. Each one drifted toward Vega with no sound, no warning. Their approach was like a wave of illusions. Vega's muscles tensed. This was no ordinary skill. He planted his feet, spear raised, every nerve alert. Then, without warning, a hand shot toward the back of his head from his blind spot. But just before it landed, Silva halted and swiftly retreated. A sharp rip rang out. His clothes were torn, and a thin line of blood slid down his back. Silva stared at the redback shrike with narrowed eyes. He hadn't even been touched by the spear, but it had still wounded him. He quickly realized, the weapon's reach exceeded its physical length, and its sharpness was absurd. A mere graze could sever limbs. Too dangerous to parry with bare hands. The spear was over 2 meters long, not ideal for close-quarters combat. And from what Silva had observed, Vega's martial technique wasn't particularly refined. If he could close the distance, Silva's odds would drastically improve. With that in mind, Silva surged forward again, using his advanced shadow step technique, illusions trailing behind him. Vega responded by plunging the spear into the ground and ripping up a huge chunk of earth. He slammed his fist into it, shattering the rock into a barrage of stone projectiles, launching them toward the incoming phantoms like a cannon blast. Most of Silva's illusions vanished immediately under the assault. Vega's eyes darted, searching. Not left. Not right. Then, front and center, one figure remained, unaffected by the stones. Found you. Vega lunged forward, spear flashing. Point, sweep, feint. His spear techniques poured out in rapid succession. While Vega lacked Silva's elite martial finesse, the spear's raw power made up for it. The two exchanged blows. Silva found several openings, but each time he moved to strike, Vega twisted into a stance that would trade his life for Silva's. Silva hesitated. He'd calculated that while he could probably punch through the armor, his follow-up would be weak. But the red-back shrike? That weapon could slice through his defenses easily. A direct hit could be fatal. And while the Zoldyks weren't afraid of death, Silva wasn't about to gamble his life for a scratch. The battle entered a deadlock. Silva avoided the spear's deadly edge. Vega refused to let Silva close in. The clashing aura from their fight destroyed the ground, splintered boulders, and uprooted trees. Suddenly, bang! Silva fired a Nen bullet. Vega dodged and swung his spear, keeping Silva at bay. Vega frowned. He wasn't interested in dragging this out. He'd considered using his accumulated XP to upgrade Demon's Haunt again, just to finish Silva here and now. But then he imagined the consequences. Maha! Xeno! Illumi! If Silva died, the Zoldyks would unleash hell. Worse, if they used Aluka's wish-granting power, it would be game over. Vega clenched his jaw. Better to de-escalate. We've been fighting for a while now, he said, backing away to a safer distance. Neither of us has the upper hand. Why don't we call it even? You can't kill me. Silva's cold gaze didn't waver. The Zoldyk family always completes its contracts, he said calmly. We don't abandon jobs. Chapter 53. TCH. Dead-brained assassin families. Vega muttered, watching Silva's impassive face. He'd expected this response, but had hoped for a more reasonable outcome. Vega still had over 7,000 XP. He'd planned to save it to evolve Demon's Haunt further, but if Silva wasn't backing down, he'd have to spend some of it now. With a thought, the system appeared. Demon's Haunt, DRI. Upgrade cost, 1,000 XP. Description: forged from the bones of the Tyrant Dragon. After merging, boosts the user's abilities tenfold and grants near impenetrable defense. Weapon: Redback Shrike, included. He hovered over the upgrade button. But then a thought struck him. His eyes narrowed as he looked at Silva. Are you really willing to fight to the death? Vega asked coldly. Because if you are, bring it. Light surged through his body as he waved the Redback Shrike. His armor flared with power, a deadly red glow radiating from it. Silva immediately backed off. His instincts screamed danger. That surge of aura, it was either a vow or an enhanced burst. Either way, it was lethal. Silva had seen opponents go all in with desperation techniques before. You either killed them instantly, or waited until they burned out. He took a defensive stance, or a flaring, prepared for either retreat or retaliation. The light around Vega faded. The armor's damage had fully regenerated, and an even stronger power pulsed through him. Vega's eyes locked onto Silva. You had your chance. Now I'm done playing nice. With a single step, Vega shot forward like a missile. The Redback Shrike blazed with energy, slicing through the air. Silva dodged just in time. Boom. 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 The ground cracked beneath Vega's strikes. Deep slashes tore through rock and dirt. Silva narrowed his eyes. His speeds increased. At least a tier faster. Same with his attacks. That armor. It's not just healed, it's stronger. This was no bluff. Vega was serious. The two continued clashing. Each blow shook the forest. Frustrated that Silva was still holding his ground, Vega made a decision. He spent 2,000 more XP, enhancing Demon's Haunt a second time. His aura spiked again, doubling in strength. Before Silva could react, Vega blitzed forward, his spear a blur of crimson light. SHNK. Silva's left arm was severed. Still calm, Silva raised his remaining hand and fired a massive Nen blast, forcing Vega back. Using the opening, he caught his severed arm, turned ghost-like, and vanished into the forest. By the time Vega crushed the Nen sphere and charged forward, Silva was gone. Only a faint trail of blood remained. TCH. Slipped away, Vega muttered. So much for making peace. He'd offered it. Silva refused. And now, one arm short, he fled. Next time, Vega thought, I'll open with the beating. Then we'll talk. He released Demon's Haunt and pulled out his phone. Pick me up, he told Kurok. Half an hour later, a sleek convoy of luxury vehicles arrived. Before the engines even cut off, Kurok had leapt out and sprinted toward Vega, flanked by members of the Penguin family. He knelt respectfully. Boss. Welcome back, leader. The others shouted in unison. Vega waved them off and got into the car. The convoy immediately turned toward the heart of Nacra City. Meanwhile, Silva had fled deep into the wilderness. Holding his severed arm, he pulled out his phone. Beep. Beep. Father, he said. The target is stronger than expected. I need backup. You can take half the pay. Bring medical support, too. I've lost an arm. I can reattach it with Nen, but full functionality needs treatment. If we fight him together, we can't afford mistakes. Chapter 54. The convoy rolled into the Fanmtl family's villa district. One by one, the cars split off until only two drove into the estate, a vast, elegant property surrounding a large, luxurious villa. Vega led Karak up to the reception room on the second floor. As he followed, Karak quietly closed the door behind them. He walked a few steps along the wall and stopped in front of a wine cabinet. Among the hundreds of rare bottles, Vega casually pulled out a bottle of brandy and glanced sideways at Karak with a grin. How about a drink? It's been a while. Karak nodded quickly, walking over to retrieve glasses. He poured the brandy with great care, then held one glass with both hands and offered it to Vega. Watching him, Vega shook his head with a soft smile. Karak, you've been with the Fanmtl family for over 20 years. You were my father's right-hand man. I've known you since I was a kid. Whenever something happened, it was always you who handled it. To me, we're not just allies, we're brothers. Family. So relax. After all, we still have to build the Fanmtl family's glory together. Karak straightened up, his face serious. Master, you're not just the savior of the Fanmtl family, you're the man I swore to follow. My vow will never be forgotten. Vega chuckled and gestured for him to sit. All right, enough of that. Let's just talk. Take a seat. Yes, sir. Karak sat down carefully, posture straight, waiting attentively. Vega took a sip of brandy and then asked about the state of the family. After all, he'd killed one of the 10 Dons, Hagel's fourth son. While most of the fallout would land on him, the Fanmtl family could easily be caught in the crossfire. Karak paused mid-sip, then set his glass down and replied. Master, while things have been turbulent recently, nothing unmanageable. The moment I heard what you'd done, I ordered the family to be on alert. We've been watching for unfamiliar people loitering around Nacra City, and I warned our members to stay vigilant for any sneak attacks. After you killed Murphy, a large number of unidentified individuals started snooping around, trying to learn more about the Fanmtl family. I had my men capture and eliminate several spies. But that night, a group of Nen users broke into the Fanmtl family headquarters. Though our men fought bravely, they were overpowered. Eventually, I was forced to activate the fire gauntlet and, together with our gunners, we managed to wipe them out, but the losses were severe. We suffered over 100 casualties. Vega's expression darkened. He slammed his glass on the table, shattering it. Wine spilled down his hand and onto the floor, dripping from the edge of the table. His voice was cold and sharp. Did you find out where they came from? I want to know which bastards dared to cross us. And the men who died, have their families been taken care of? Karak nodded. Yes, master. We've compensated the families generously, and all medical expenses for the injured have been covered. As for the attackers, we couldn't identify them. No IDs, no traceable backgrounds. It's as if they came out of thin air. We've scoured every angle, but it's like they never existed. Vega tapped his fingers against the table and thought. Meteor City. That was the only place he could think of where people had no identities. But he quickly dismissed it. If Meteor City wanted him dead, the Phantom Troop alone would be more than enough. Why send another team? It was more likely that the Fanmtl family's intelligence network just wasn't strong enough to track them. He nodded and patted Karak's shoulder. You've done well. But from now on, anyone who dares challenge the Fanmtl family, I'll make sure they regret it. Still, Vega knew the truth. If the family was going to survive and grow stronger, he needed to arm them, personally. They needed power. He stood, poured another glass of brandy, and asked casually. Karak, Last time I gave you a task. How many people can we trust? Kurok lowered his voice respectfully. Master, I found over 20 candidates, but I handpicked 10 of them. They're loyal to the core. If you give the order, they'll follow you to the grave. As for the others, it's not that they're incompetent, but most are lone wolves. I didn't think they were suitable. Oh? Vega smiled. Then let me see for myself. Bring them in. If they meet the criteria, we may have just found the Fanmtl family's future. Kurok looked surprised. Master, are you going to give them power? Vega simply smiled and said nothing. Soon, following Kurok's orders, the 10 chosen members arrived at the villa and stood before Vega. Chapter 55. Vega sat at the head of the conference room, eyes on the 10 men in suits lined up before him. He spoke calmly. Kurok tells me you're the finest warriors in the Fanmtl family. Loyal. Fierce. The sword and shield of this family's future. Hearing this, the 10 men couldn't help but smile proudly. Though they were mid-level officers, group and team leaders, they rarely received direct attention from the boss, let alone praise. If they caught Vega's eye, their status would skyrocket. At the very least, their futures were secured. But Vega's tone suddenly shifted. His smile faded into a sneer. In my eyes, you're all worthless. A bunch of trash. Only 5 of you even have passable combat strength. You think this is what it takes to defend the Fanmtl family? The men's smiles vanished. Their faces flushed with anger. They were fighters, men who could take on 10 at once. Respected. Hardened. Even if Vega was strong, his words stung. Their fists clenched. Their blood boiled. Vega saw the reaction, and grinned. You're not convinced, are you? I'm not, one man shouted. He was young, no older than 25, with a scar running across his cheek. I'm Cass, and I've shed blood for this family. We all have. Even if you're the boss, you can't just insult us. We're the elite. Vega chuckled. Frogs at the bottom of a well. Then he looked to Kurok. Show them real power. Kurok bowed, then raised his right hand. The fire gauntlet flared to life, scarlet flames erupting skyward. Cass stumbled backward in fear. The others scrambled to avoid the blaze, shielding their faces from the heat, though the flames hadn't even touched them. This is the legendary flame of Kurok? One man gasped. They'd heard the rumors, but seeing it in person was another matter. Kurok stood calmly, the flame dancing on his hand like it was nothing. Their eyes widened with awe and envy. Vega snapped his fingers, snapping their attention back. Now, tell me. Are you still elite? Then, boom. His aura exploded. It surged over them like a tidal wave. The 10 men couldn't move. Paralyzed under the crushing weight of Vega's aura, they gasped for air, drenched in sweat. Moments later, the pressure vanished. They collapsed to their knees, gasping. Vega stared down at them coldly. You couldn't even stay standing. And you thought you could protect this family? Ashamed, the 10 men bowed their heads. Vega smirked. Now you see the truth. He stepped down from the platform and approached them. Kurok barked out. Kneel. Swear your loyalty. Pledge yourselves to the master, and he will give you strength beyond imagination. Immediately, the 10 bowed their heads to the floor. I swear I will never betray you. I swear to always serve you. I swear to protect my brothers and this family. Oath after oath rang out, echoing in the chamber. Vega closed his eyes, focusing his aura. He poured Nen into his ability and began materializing items, using his experience points to create the Fanmtl family's sacred armaments. Light blazed around him. Weapons began appearing one by one, swords, crossbows, shields, gauntlets, mirrors. All infused with Nen. Vega's experience points dropped rapidly, over 2,000 spent. Finally, each man held a glowing weapon of his own. Then Kurok stepped forward again, holding 10 rings, each a different color of the spectrum. Vega smiled. From today, you are the 10 commandments of the Fanmtl family. You are its sword. Its shield. Its unbreakable frontline. Chapter 56. Yes, Master. The 10 commandments dropped to their knees in unison, accepting Vega's decree. In their hearts, the vows they'd spoken were real. They burned with purpose, eager to become the Fanmtl family's deadliest weapons, and its strongest defense. "Kurok. Master." Kurok answered quickly, bowing deeply. Vega smiled. "I've always seen your loyalty and dedication. From today forward, the 10 Commandments will answer to you. You'll be there first." Vega rested a hand on his shoulder, his tone heavy with trust. Kurok immediately knelt, voice steady and filled with fire. "Master, I swear, we will lead the Fanmtl family to the top of the underworld." Vega nodded. "We're on the right track. The HxH family will be our stepping stone." His expression turned cold. "But we need strength, now. The enemies are coming. Strong ones." The phantom troop already struck once. Then came Silverzoldyck. "It's clear. The 10 Dons are moving everything they've got to destroy me. I can fight them, but the family is still weak. If we don't act, they'll exploit that weakness, and tear us apart." He thought of the troop again. They'd already lost face. Kurlo wouldn't let that go. They'd be back. And if the Zoldks saw a chance to intervene, they'd take it. The only guarantee Vega had was that the Zoldks never abandoned a job. Unless the target was literally untouchable, like Netero, they wouldn't back down. And Vega wasn't Netero. So he had to act. He considered strengthening Kurok's fire gauntlet further, but discarded the idea. The stronger it got, the more nen it required. Kurok might not have the stamina to use it effectively. Nor was his physical body suitable for forcibly unlocking aura nodes, too risky. Instead, Vega needed a way to strengthen his people. Directly. A thought sparked in his mind. The Shikon Jewel. The Jewel of 4 Souls, from Inuyasha. A mythical object with the power to grant wishes, resurrect the dead, and greatly enhance strength. Even a fragment could change someone's fate. Vega immediately began visualizing it, focusing his nen into materializing even a shard. The experience drain was enormous. His mental strength dipped. His body weakened. But finally, a glowing fragment of the jewel appeared in his hand. Kurok's eyes lit up. His breath caught. Something inside him, some primal instinct, yearned for that jewel. He needed it. He almost reached for it. But Vega noticed and immediately clenched it tight, flooding the area with nen to seal the jewel's presence. Kurok blinked, returning to normal. Vega exhaled. Dangerous. Even a fragment could bend wills. If it ever fell into the wrong hands, it could start a war. Chapter 57. "Yes, Master." The 10 Commandments dropped to their knees in unison, accepting Vega's decree. In their hearts, the vows they'd spoken were real. They burned with purpose, eager to become the Fanmtl family's deadliest weapons, and its strongest defense. "Kurok. Master." Kurok answered quickly, bowing deeply. Vega smiled. "I've always seen your loyalty and dedication. From today forward, the 10 Commandments will answer to you. You'll be there first." Vega rested a hand on his shoulder, his tone heavy with trust. Kurok immediately knelt, voice steady and filled with fire. "Master, I swear, we will lead the Fanmtl family to the top of the underworld." Vega nodded. "We're on the right track. The HxH family will be our stepping stone." His expression turned cold. "But we need strength, now. The enemies are coming. Strong ones." The phantom troop already struck once. Then came Silverzoldyck. "It's clear. The 10 Dons are moving everything they've got to destroy me. I can fight them, but the family is still weak. If we don't act, they'll exploit that weakness, and tear us apart." He thought of the troop again. They'd already lost face. Kurlo wouldn't let that go. They'd be back. And if the Zoldks saw a chance to intervene, they'd take it. The only guarantee Vega had was that the Zoldks never abandoned a job. Unless the target was literally untouchable, like Netero, they wouldn't back down. And Vega wasn't Netero. So he had to act. He considered strengthening Kurok's fire gauntlet further, but discarded the idea. The stronger it got, the more nen it required. Kurok might not have the stamina to use it effectively. Nor was his physical body suitable for forcibly unlocking aura nodes, Too risky. Instead, Vega needed a way to strengthen his people. Directly, a thought sparked in his mind. The Shikon Jewel. The Jewel of Four Souls, from Inuyasha. A mythical object with the power to grant wishes, resurrect the dead, and greatly enhance strength. Even a fragment could change someone's fate. Vega immediately began visualizing it, focusing his nen into materializing even a shard. The experience drain was enormous. His mental strength dipped. His body weakened. But finally, a glowing fragment of the jewel appeared in his hand. Kurok's eyes lit up. His breath caught. Something inside him, some primal instinct, yearned for that jewel. He needed it. He almost reached for it. But Vega noticed and immediately clenched it tight, flooding the area with nen to seal the jewel's presence. Kurok blinked, returning to normal. Vega exhaled. Dangerous. Even a fragment could bend wills. If it ever fell into the wrong hands, it could start a war. Chapter 58. Inside the Pengel estate. On a vast open lawn, Vega stood alongside Kurok, who had just recovered from his earlier transformation. Vega was eager to test the effects of the Shikon fragment. He wanted to know just how far this resentment nen could boost someone's strength, and whether it could be replicated. In the movie-based lore, resentment had been used by shadow operatives, black-gloved killers acting on behalf of the Hunter Association's dark side. Some were ultimately destroyed by Netero himself. There was also that mysterious figure who returned from the dead, tied to the power of the Shikon like jade. Though Vega had dismissed the film's plot as incoherent in his past life, this energy now pulsing inside Kurok was very real. And powerful. If the Shikon fragment could raise Kurok's level, what if he gave similar shards to the newly formed Ten Commandments? Could he build an entire strike force of resentment users? Kurok, Vega ordered. Channel resentment into the fire gauntlet. Normally, the gauntlet relied on physical exertion to generate fire, usually no stronger than 300 to 500 degrees Celsius. Functional, but unimpressive. It was on par with the early floor fighters of the Sky Arena, barely adequate against anyone with nen. But now. Kurok froze for a moment. He hadn't told Vega this, but ever since he'd woken up, he'd felt something whispering to him. The shard embedded in his body emitted a constant pulse, like a voice in his soul, calling him, seducing him, promising power, urging surrender. It was only through sheer willpower and discipline that Kurok had resisted it. But now, Vega had ordered him to use it. Despite the clear risk of losing himself to its influence, Kurok obeyed without hesitation. He opened his mind, just a little. The pulse within the Shikon shard answered at once, surging into his body like a tide of black fire. Purple veins rose across his skin. His face twisted. A dark aura exploded around him. Then, he opened his eyes. A soft, eerie purple light gleamed from within. "How do you feel, Kurok?" Vega asked calmly. Kurok took a breath before answering. "Master, I feel full of strength. There's a strange current flowing through my body. But as it moves, I feel surges of intense emotion. Anger, sorrow, rage. I can control it, for now. But it would be easy to lose myself if I let it go unchecked." Vega nodded, analyzing carefully. "As I thought. This is resentment. Negative emotional energy, something similar to nen, but darker. More volatile. Now, try using it to activate the fire gauntlet." Kurok obeyed. He slowly began channeling the resentful aura into the gauntlet. It didn't work at first, he couldn't quite find the connection. But with the Shikon fragment's help, the energy aligned. Whoosh! A black flame ignited in his palm. Not orange. Not red. Black. It burned coldly. Dark, eerie. More like shadow than fire. Kurok focused it into a condensed sphere the size of a ping-pong ball, then kept pouring resentment into it. His body trembled. His eyes turned pitch black. A sinister air surrounded him. Then, explode. He hurled the black fireball toward a nearby wall. Boom. The blast shook the earth. A crater nearly 3 meters wide opened up. Black flames still lit the pit's edges, refusing to extinguish. Kurok stared at his hands, stunned. That Was me? He still had plenty of resentment left to channel. If he hadn't hesitated to avoid losing control, the fireball could have been even larger. Vega analyzed the results calmly. That blast rivaled the power of many basic nen abilities. Based on what he'd seen, Vega mentally categorized Kurok's current strength as Grade D, a solid low-tier nen user. If Kurok learned the four major principles, Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu, and advanced techniques like Gyo, his level would rise even further. If the rest of the 10 commandments were equipped with Shikon fragments, their growth could be accelerated tremendously. As he pondered, something caught his eye. A slender dragon was flying toward the estate from afar. Using Gyo to focus his vision, Vega peered through the distance. His expression hardened. Xeno Zoldyck. Silver Zoldyck. The two figures riding the dragon sent a chill down Vega's spine. He turned to Kurok immediately. Take everyone in the villa and get out, now. We have incoming enemies. But master, Kurok began. Vega cut him off. No. You staying would only distract me. These enemies are too strong. You'd die instantly if you got involved. Kurok's fists clenched. Shame burned in his chest. Still not strong enough. He bowed deeply. Understood. With that, he rushed to evacuate the staff and guards from the villa. Soon, the once bustling estate was silent. Vega stood alone on the field, eyes locked on the approaching dragon. The moment the beast drew near, two figures leapt off its back, landing dozens of meters away. Xeno. Silva. They didn't speak. They didn't move. But the battle was inevitable. And it was about to begin. Chapter 59. A light breeze swept through the field, gently lifting scattered leaves from the grass. Xeno Zoldyck and Silver Zoldyck stood still, a short distance away, staring down Vega, who stood poised with the demon-haunted blade in hand. Both sides remained motionless, locked in a silent standoff across dozens of meters. Vega narrowed his eyes, sizing them up. Though he felt cautious facing two of the most dangerous assassins in the world, he wasn't afraid. Not with the demon-haunted armor on him. Its impenetrable defense had already allowed him to endure the full might of Silva once. Even with Xeno added to the mix, he was confident he could survive, and perhaps even win. Back again, Silva said coldly. Do you remember me? Vega grinned. Of course. I'm the one who cut off your arm, remember? His eyes flicked to Silva's fully restored limb. So, you got it reattached. Must have forgotten the pain. Then, turning to the older man beside Silva, stooped, long-bearded, dressed in his signature Chinese-style robes, Vega's expression darkened. You must be the famous Xeno Zoldyck, he said. You sure you shouldn't be at home playing chess or something? This isn't exactly a senior-friendly job. Xeno's voice was calm and indifferent. I go where my name is needed. Silva underestimated you last time. I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen again. At that moment, both assassins began walking slowly toward Vega. Silva muttered under his breath, Dad, be careful. That armor increases his strength and his defense is almost unbreakable. Normal attacks won't get through. I understand, Xeno replied evenly. Then, the last of the wind-blown leaves touched the ground. And they attacked. Two black blurs shot toward Vega. Vega didn't hesitate. Awaken. Demon-haunted. A translucent dragon burst from his sword with a roar that echoed across the villa grounds. A domineering wave of aura surged outward as the phantom dragon fused into Vega's body. Black and red armor wrapped around him instantly, glowing with sharp, otherworldly energy. He took hold of the red-backed shrike, a long, blood-hued spear etched with dragon motifs. Swish. Silva moved like a ghost, closing the distance in an instant, his fists charged with deadly intent, aiming for Vega's abdomen. Vega smirked. You forgot how you lost your arm? He slashed with the shrike, red energy trailing in its path. But Silva was fainting. He ducked under the blow, using the momentum to slip away. At the same time, Xeno appeared behind Vega, both hands raised like blades, gleaming with nen. A storm of knife-hand strikes flew toward Vega's head, each one swift, precise, and fatal. Vega twisted away, bringing his spear around defensively, sweeping wide. Zeno danced just beyond the strike's reach, skillfully weaving through the strikes like he was walking on a knife's edge. Not even the blade's aura touched him. Vega growled as he dodged back, fending off the flurry. Then, boom! A heavy blow landed at his ribs. Silva had reappeared and landed a full-force punch. Vega was blasted through the air, crashing through a wall and vanishing into a cloud of dust. Zeno didn't hesitate. Dragon Lance. He formed a piercing spear of Nen and launched it straight into the ruined building. But Silva's eyes remained locked elsewhere. Not there. He barked. He pointed to a nearby house just adjacent to the destroyed wall. A red light flickered inside, then the wall exploded outward. Vega emerged slowly, brushing dust from his armor. "Well coordinated," he muttered, looking between them. "The Zoldyks really are a headache." Zeno's eyes flicked to Silva's face, where a small, fresh cut bled slightly. "That spear is deadly," Zeno said. "It cut you without touching. That's no ordinary weapon. And his armor. We've landed solid hits, but he takes them. He can afford to trade blows. We can't." Silva nodded grimly. "Even the two of us together are having trouble." "In that case," Zeno said coolly, "we'll go in close. Disable the spear. Disarm him. I'll open him up. You finish him." Silva gave a short nod. "Got it." The two Zoldyks split, boxing Vega in, one on each side, ensuring someone was always in his blind spot. Then, Zeno's aura exploded. He raised his hands, gathering a swirling mass of Nen. Dragon Lance, Piercing Fang. A condensed dragon-shaped blast shot toward Vega with terrifying speed. Chapter 60. Vega didn't dodge. He lunged into the attack. He knew better than to try and evade Zeno's technique. As a master of the emission class, Zeno could manipulate his Dragon Lance mid-flight. Dodging wouldn't work. Besides, he knew Silva was lying in wait. If Vega showed the slightest weakness or imbalance, Silva would capitalize instantly. And with Demon Haunted's defense, Vega believed he could take the hit. He raised the red-backed shrike and swatted the dragon-shaped blast aside. But it was a trap. The moment Vega committed to deflecting the blast, Zeno shot forward like a shadow. He struck with lightning speed, unleashing a flurry of attacks aimed at Vega's joints, throat, and gaps in his armor. Vega responded in kind, his spear spinning in wide arcs, trading blows with Zeno at breakneck pace. Sparks flew. The air rang with steel and aura. But Zeno's attacks were surgical. His fists struck with surgical accuracy, each one probing for a weakness. Though the armor absorbed most of the damage, Vega felt himself being worn down. This was bad. Zeno knew he couldn't pierce the armor. But he wasn't trying to. He was keeping Vega busy, setting up for Silva. Then, suddenly, a flaw. Vega saw it. Zeno's stance slipped just slightly, his leg exposed. Perfect? Vega swept his spear. But Zeno had predicted it. Rather than the waist, Vega's spear struck lower, cleaving straight through both of Zeno's calves. Splat. Blood burst into the air as Zeno's legs were severed. But at that very moment, Dragon Lance, bind. The remnants of Zeno's aura snapped shut around Vega like a trap. A dragon-shaped stream of Nen wrapped around Vega's body, binding him in place. Now, Zeno roared. Silva had been waiting. His aura exploded outward. Two massive orbs of Nen formed in his fists, condensed aura bombs, glowing with lethal power. With a roar, Silva hurled them both at Vega. Boom. The impact shook the entire estate. Dust erupted. The shockwave leveled the villa. A mushroom cloud of pure aura blasted skyward. A crater formed, 20, 30 meters wide. Several meters deep. It looked like a meteor had struck. Snap. Zeno reappeared beside Silva, blood trailing from his leg stumps. His face pale but focused. Silva immediately began staunching the bleeding. They both stared into the smoldering crater. Zeno frowned. "Something's wrong." A voice echoed from within the pit, cold, steady, full of fury. "You pushed me. This far?" Silva's eyes widened. Without hesitation, he lunged toward Zeno. But he was too slow. A flash of red light streaked through the smoke. Slash. Blood sprayed into the air as a severed arm went flying. Silva had thrown himself in the way, blocking the attack meant for Zeno. He didn't even flinch. He grabbed his father and retreated immediately. "No time to think," he muttered, calling the wyvern above. By the time Vega emerged from the crater, his armor cracked, but still intact. The Zoldyks were already gone, carried away into the sky. He watched them disappear into the clouds, eyes narrowed, the red-backed shrike humming in his hand. The battle was over, for now. But he knew they would return. And next time, they might bring more.